the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoak Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with David Craig and Craig Smoak.
And we have a bunch to get to. Good afternoon, good evening, all of the above, wherever you might be watching us every afternoon at 3. I'm David Craig with Craig Smoak, the Smoak Show on 365 Sports. And there is so much to get to, Craig, including an NFL player who's back in college, what that means. Lane Kiffin responds to that. So do others as well. And a bunch of quarterback decisions made, and we'll get to those as well. And Steve Sarkisian on his quarterback at Arch Manning. Plus, they had to make a decision entering the weekend. Anthony Smith is out. He's been dismissed from the team. We'll get to all of that. We have Chip Brown today at 4, R.C. Slocum at 4:40. We have Phil Bennett today. He'll start his stretch with us at 5 o'clock. And then Ari Temkin will start our first guest coming up at 3:40. So whenever we think it may not get more bizarre, it seems to get more bizarre, Mr. Smoak.
Yeah, I mean, glad to be here as always, and I think you're burying the lead. There's a lot going on.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Let's go to the first week of college football.
There
it
you
is
go.
the very first week of college football. There are actually games to be played coming up this week, including the game in Dublin, Ohio, between TCU and, of course, North Carolina. There's the schedule starting this weekend. Those are the games coming up this weekend. A lighter schedule, and then it picks up quite a bit, of course, following that.
Yes, well, I know you've got a lot on your plate, so hopefully you are wrong and the game is in Dublin, Ireland, as expected, because otherwise a bunch of TCU fans made their way over there for nothing. You just said Dublin, Ohio is where the game is being played.
Well, it's a beautiful golf course where Nicholas built.
So I know you're heavily
Man, you're
modulated.
just ripping at me early today.
I'm just coming with common sense.
Cross-check me.
Yeah,
it's Dublin, Ireland. That's why I have it up on the screen.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to correct you because, yeah, it's not Dublin, Ohio. I just think there'd be a lot of fans who paid a lot of money to go overseas that are looking around at an empty stadium going, I thought we were playing this weekend, but no, Ireland is where they are. And, yes, this is the biggest story of the day, with all due respect to Lane Kiffin at LSU and their attempt to just further professionalize college football and all of the other things that are going on. This is the biggest story of the day. We have arrived, folks. We have arrived at the start of college football season, and yes, North Carolina, TCU right there at the top. Cannot wait to see that game, and obviously not a full slate this weekend, but real-life action. This is what we've been waiting for.
Well, last year, Hawaii beat Stanford. Last year, it was NC State beating Virginia. That's a couple of ACC teams. And, of course, there are other games, Florida State at home against New Mexico State. And they'll eventually have a game coming up. Oh, my God, I just went blank on who they have to play. But Florida State, with what they're trying to do to bounce back after a couple of really bad years. We don't need to go over all of them, but there's not that many of them. But Craig, which of those games, the top 2 or 3, in your opinion, the one you're more focused on?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go in depth, but I definitely would like to talk about these things here. So, yeah, North Carolina and TCU is obviously a big game for both sides, and I think a big way for both teams to start off with. Belichick obviously feeling a lot of pressure, and Sonny Dykes and TCU, I mean, got to feel like this is a game they should win and must win in a lot of ways, or else that'd just be kind of an awful look. I mean, get a little ACC on ACC early on, Hawaii, Stanford, Memphis, UNLV. Yeah, it's a nice little slate, a nice appetizer, and Florida State with New Mexico State should be the one game you feel most confident about. I would hope, if you're an FSU fan, maybe Central Arkansas in a couple of weeks. But, yeah, it's a nice tune-up because you have SMU and then Alabama is who I think you were trying to think of there. But SMU and Alabama in 2 of their first 3 games. So this is a game for FSU to kind of knock the dust and rust off and get prepared for what could be 2 really big games for them right out of the gates here. So, yeah, not a crazy opening weekend, but some fun things to look out for. USC obviously has a lot of expectations this year as well.
And you know what? North Dakota State making that entry out of FCS into what they're doing. Sacramento State has been in that transition themselves, and they have the game on the road against Eastern Michigan. I cannot wait. I've had this list of I have the football, what is it, Blitz or whatever. It's a great attachment I get every week during the football season. But I had them send it to me early, so I have almost every week, all the schedules. Cannot wait, could not wait to see this one pop up as we get to it right off the top. Here's a video or picture from a fan in Ireland from Killer Frogs with a glass of, well, whatever that might be, and enjoying the scenery from a castle built in 1180 with Killer Frogs, who covers TCU on the road.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks like maybe some wine or some kind of brown liquor there. I don't know if it's scotch or what. Not my bag, really, but it does look like it's a really nice, relaxing time and a hell of a way to get the week started. I mean, they're just chilling in Ireland for a week, basically, it looks like. So good for them to have the vacation days and the ability to do that, along with all the other TCU and North Carolina fans that have made their way across the pond. For as much as people roll their eyes at the international stuff sometimes, or you'd prefer to have a home game, I do think for the folks who have gone over to Ireland, a lot of times maybe you wouldn't have done so otherwise in your life. So I do think there is some value in having these international games depending on the kind of person you are. And certainly this person here is enjoying this much more than if it was just a home game in Fort Worth. So a cool experience for the Frogs and the Tar Heels fans out there.
All right, so let's get to a story that's also taken over college football. Really started percolating late in the week when there were thoughts that Browns tight end Daquan Wright, was thinking about leaving. There's also another story about a player playing for Tampa Bay who said, I have to make my mind up about whether I stay in camp or I go back to college. Here it is, former Mississippi tight end, Ole Miss tight end, Daquan Wright, who entered the portal and then committed to LSU. He's also been at Virginia Tech as well. Very good talent. Saw video of him actually warming up in a preseason game and at practice as well. So he hits the portal. He commits to LSU. And we will have different comments from Todd Monken, the Browns head coach, Dan Lanning from Oregon, among others. But just recently, I mean, like in the last hour, Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin, he looks at this decision and defends why LSU did this.
So, we have, made a decision to recruit some kids around the country. And, through these multiple injunctions around the country, which this is not a first time, they've been in college sports for a while, a group of players were granted a fifth year of eligibility around the country in multiple sports. And through them winning their injunction and entry into the portal, they're available to recruit. And so ourselves, like many places around the country, are recruiting them. And at the end of the day, because of these rulings, they're either going to play for you or they're going to play somewhere else around the country. So we've made a decision to recruit them, like probably most people are.
That was Kiffin earlier today, Craig.
I think this story sucks. I think it sucks to see professional football players coming back to college, regardless of if they land at LSU or at Florida State or at TCU. I don't want to see it personally. I understand Kiffin's position. I think he tries to sometimes, a lot of times, play like this ho-hum, like I don't know, guys, I just had no choice. And it's just so obviously, he's just so obviously full of, I don't even know what color his eyes are, but I would guess brown because he's that full of it. I don't know. What are we going to do? We couldn't come on, dude. You're trying to put together the best roster you possibly can. Nobody else might have done it. You decided to do it. Don't sit there and go, well, other people are recruiting and other people have decided. No, you decided to do this. Own yours. And you are, to an extent, that you're saying we've decided to recruit them. So, yeah, that's what they're doing. And Daquan Wright, who was at Ole Miss, so he's obviously very familiar and gone and took part with the New Orleans Saints throughout this last few months of being a professional football player is now suddenly available, and there's all these injunctions and different things going on in the court system where the class of 22 got screwed out of the 5th year, and a lot of people calling out that this could have been prevented had the NCAA just grandfathered them in, seeing as they were the one class that would be affected. Now, I will push back on how that would have been nice and clean and that would have solved everything, because I still feel like there is going to be a 2021 guy who grabs a lawyer and says, well, wait a second, we didn't, and I know there would be a different angle there because of like COVID year and all of that, but you cannot tell me that somebody in those classes wouldn't have tried to have found a way to do this, because that's what they're all doing. They're all trying to find their way back to college because that's where the easy money is. And these agents and lawyers, I mean, they're just like a pig in slop with all these different things to sue over. And so here's the latest thing, and it's some of the NCAA's own doing because of the way they decided to implement the 5 for 5. Is this the chaos that everybody was kind of talking about a week or two ago? No, because it's not like it's 100 players. It's 2-3 dozen guys, but it does look like a good portion of them are going to end up at LSU because just in the last 10 minutes, former Ole Miss star defensive lineman Xavier Harris, and maybe I said the Saints, I meant the Saints for Xavier Harris here. That's what I was looking at when I was saying that. But you had the example here of your Daquan Wright going through what he was actually Cleveland Browns camp to get that correct, I believe, right?
Yeah.
But I was just saying, I said Saints a second ago.
No,
I was
Saints
thinking
is Jack Pyburn.
Well, it's also Xavier Harris, who's now in the last 10 minutes being reported to be the latest LSU former NFL player who's now joining their roster, and former Ole Miss defensive lineman, 6'8", 330, all SEC at Ole Miss last season. He's now apparently going to be joining LSU. So you're looking at, we're approaching a handful already of former NFL guys that are now finding spots, and many of them will probably find themselves in Baton Rouge. And he's right from the standpoint of it's technically allowed, although I'm curious to see what the SEC's reaction is over this.
Everyone's waiting to hear from Greg Sankey, and he has to. He might even say this is wrong. We can't do this, but yet can he lose in court? Whatever he decides, whether or not, because there's that interconference transfer, the first portal between SEC and SEC.
Right, and the argument from LSU fans that I've already seen is, oh, well, he's not transferring from an SEC school. He's transferring from the Cleveland Browns or from the New Orleans Saints, and I don't know how much water that argument really holds, but it is technically factual. I don't know if you'd call it a transfer or not. So, we'll need the lawyers to sort through how effective that SEC interconference rule is when it comes to a scenario that they had no idea would probably be coming down the pipeline. Although you should probably have assumed that everything is open and fair game. So, this is not the most fun thing to talk about the opening week of the season, but it is interesting, and it is of no surprise whatsoever that LSU in general, but much less with Lane Kiffin leading the charge, would also be leading the charge and going, well, if we got to do it, because if we don't do it, then somebody else is going to do it. And it's like, I don't know. That kind of sounds like kind of an excuse, but let's face it. LSU, Lane Kiffin, they're going to be as win by any means necessary as any team in America. I don't think they're going to go and pick up just anybody willy-nilly that's got like a long rap sheet or anything necessarily. So I do think there are some things that are off guard. But for the most part, if you're telling me to guess what program and what head coach would lead the charge in trying to push things as much as humanly possible and take advantage of any and every situation, that would be my first guess every single time, 100 times out of 100. And I respect LSU's history, but let's just call a spade and say what it is. Like, they want to win. They want to win big. They don't make any bones about that. And, meanwhile, if this had happened at Auburn, I'm sure there would be some LSU fans who would be like, this sucks. But since they're benefiting from it like other teams do with their fan bases, they're all happy about it because it's making them better, because now they're getting some former all-SEC guys and technically former NFL players to now join what's already a loaded roster. So we all know what this is. It's no surprise Lane Kiffin's at the center of it, or LSU for that matter. And now I'm just very intrigued by what the SEC does to try to kind of confront this.
They're waiting to hear what Greg Sankey, if he'll say anything. There is a intra-conference transfer rule as far as after the first portal. Anything after that, there's a lot of, again, there's intangibles, there's legal aspects of it, but Kiffin, he does look a little, not uncomfortable. He just knows he has to say something.
He does.
And that's, kind of like that innocence, oh, shucks.
He does that all the time, though. Like,
No,
that's his whole
I
thing.
get it. I'm not
He's
saying
all,
that-
I don't know, guys. I just,
Well,
if I didn't do it, then, he's so full of it, but we all know it.
He might have helped LSU become the villain in college football, replacing somebody out of Lubbock.
Well, maybe so. I think the term villain for Texas Tech, I think if you're talking about like a specific thing, like Cody Campbell fighting with Brett Yormark, I think that's playing the villain. I think going and getting Brendan Sorsby was not being a villain. I think the tag villain that's been given to them by so many people is bullshit. They're not a villain. They didn't break any rules. I disagreed with how they handled the Sorsby thing as we talked about ad nauseum, but they're not the villain. They're disruptor. That's what I call them. That's what I think they are. I don't know that LSU's technically a villain here, but I think they're probably about as close to one as you could get, and they're technically not doing anything wrong either. So until they're told otherwise and then want to push back and threaten a lawsuit or something, then, really they're not doing anything. But it's just one of those, like, if you know kind of what they're up to, and no, not everybody's going to do the same thing. But I saw a comment from Steve Sarkisian, and he danced around it because he's like, he's not going to, if they can go get a former NFL linebacker to suddenly join the team, he's probably not going to say no if everybody else is doing it.
Cole Hudson on the roster. Yeah.
Well, exactly. So Cole Hudson came back. Exactly right. Yeah, I forgot about Cole Hudson. So Cole Hudson's back, so like they can't say anything. And it is what it is. It's college football, and we know that it's win at all cost, and winning's the name of the game. And so Lane Kiffin's just gone and bagged, and by the end of the week, we'll probably have bagged a handful of all SEC NFL guys, and LSU will be that much better for it. So if you're an LSU fan, this is like hitting an unexpected lottery. And if you're other schools who maybe haven't taken anybody, so you can't say anything if you're a Texas guy, really, because you just said Cole Hudson. But for others out there, yeah, it feels slimy, it feels gross, and it doesn't feel right to see NFL guys coming back to college. But that's the environment that was created, and that's the environment the NCAA opened itself up towards.
And, okay, let's look at the other reactions. Here is Todd Monken. He's the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. This was before Daquan Wright entered the portal and committed immediately, I'm sure within minutes or a couple of hours, to LSU, which is not a surprise. Here is the Browns head coach when asked about a player practicing at training camp with the Browns and the possibility he might go back to college football.
After the rain delay today?
It's crazy. I don't even know what to say. As far as I know, he's had a medical issue that wasn't allowing him to practice. That's a medical, issue. It's nothing to do with me, and then he was cleared, so we dressed him just in case we had to have him. But when you don't rep, it's hard to put him on the field. JT was out there, so we didn't want to get Blake hurt, and he's only been with us a week, and we had a number of things where Browns hurt Browns, and which to the naked eye you won't see, but we had a number of things that way when you're putting in guys that haven't really been there, and some of that's true, and some of it, isn't good enough from us as coaches once they go out there. But, I don't know what to say. I wondered why Lane Kiffin reached out a week ago. Now I know. I didn't know. Now I know. I didn't call him back. Now I guess I should have.
Will Alexander.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Will Alexander on 3 also does some coverage that LSU put out that Kiffin today during that press conference also said that he did not call Todd Monken. So there's an NFL coach in his reaction. Did not call Todd Monken. Doesn't know who he is, which that's hard to imagine because he's been around for a while. And then here's Dan Lanning, Craig, from Oregon, and his thoughts about this talent that all of a sudden in certain ways is available to college football coaches.
I think there's a lot of negatives that are involved around this. One, once you go to the NFL, to me, you're in the NFL. You don't get the opportunity to come back. Two, most of us have built our rosters, and you have a limited roster limit now. So if you invited somebody back to your team, that means you're kicking somebody else off your team, right, to match your roster limits. I don't think that's fair to the players that worked all summer, all spring, and put themselves in position to be ready to work for a team. To have somebody come back. But ultimately, it used to be once you had an agent or once you went and did the combine or once you went to all those things qualified as you are no longer an amateur, you're a professional now once you declare for the draft. So to let any of those players come back, fair or unfair to them, it's unfair to the sport.
Dan Lanning, there's Todd Monken. We've heard from Lane Kiffin.
Boy, that's refreshing to hear somebody actually take a stance like that and it not to be about like, well, I got to win. I guess Dan Lanning can say that because he feels really good about the roster that he has, and I also think he believes what he's saying. I think there's probably a situation that could arise in the future where maybe he backtracks on that if Oregon were to stand to benefit, because at the end of the day, this is about winning. And that's why on the one hand, like I see through Lane Kiffin, I think he's a guy who is very aw shucks and just totally full of it. I think you could spot that from a mile away, but if he's your guy, he's a great football coach, and all he has to do is win games, not be the most serious and honest person all the time. But yeah, I think for Dan Lanning, his job is to also win, and guys are going to go about it in different ways, and Lane Kiffin feels the best way to do it is to go get these guys that he's coached previously or that he thinks can be additive to his team. And you know what? I understand it. I mean, that's his job. I don't like it. Personally, I don't like it. I don't like seeing NFL guys in college football. I absolutely hate it. It doesn't feel right. And this is the kind of thing that honestly does kind of ding my fandom a little bit. And there's not much that can do that because I've seen about it all at this point. But not that I'm not going to watch as much TV this weekend, or not that I'm any less excited for the season, but it just does give me kind of a gross feeling about the sport and the fact that, yeah, now we're going to be watching LSU, and here's a dude who is at Browns camp, and here's a dude who's at the Saints camp, and we're going to hear that all year. And it kind of sucks, man. But, again, a lot of this is the NCAA's own doing. Now, they didn't put a gun to Lane Kiffin's head and force him to go get these guys. He wants to try to shift the blame to them, and it's like, no, you need to take some of it on. Like, you need to take your end of it on. And so I think he did that while also trying to do what he does, which is blame the other side. He didn't leave Ole Miss all on his own accord. They were racist. He didn't, it's always somebody else's fault as well. But for Dan Lanning, we'll see if he sticks to that. And if he doesn't go and pursue guys like this. Now, how long will this matter? Is this the only time we're really going to see this? Because the SEC puts the clamps down, or the courts get it all together, or there's some Protect Sports Act, and eventually there's a rule where, hey, if you attended a training camp, you're not allowed to come back to college football. Like, maybe we get there by next year.
But when he mentioned that if you sign with an agent, you're done, declare for the draft.
Yeah.
Well, you can't have an agent now because
Right.
that's legal in college. So that eliminates that as immediately you sign with an agent, you're done.
So maybe we get to the point where this will all just be rooted out, and there won't be an opportunity for anybody, for Steve Sarkisian, for Lane Kiffin, for anybody to go out and get these players. And I hope that day comes sooner rather than later. I hope this is a blip on the radar. But until then, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of interesting thoughts and quotes and comments coming from coaches over the next few days and weeks. And we'll see how it works out for these teams on the field with these particular additions. I think the part from Monken about not hearing from Lane Kiffin and from hearing from Lane Kiffin and Lane Kiffin saying that's not true is like, well, somebody's lying. Yep. So somebody's lying. And I know who I'd put my money on, but I think like probably with most things, it's lost. It's like, oh, well, that wasn't me. It was a guy that's it's like one of those types of things probably. It was like, oh, no, it wasn't technically Kiffin reaching out. It was.
He said he didn't talk. If there's a voicemail, play it.
Yeah, no, right. I mean, and like I said, I know who most people would probably believe, but who's to say? It's only those two. But yeah, I mean, somebody from LSU, is that what he meant, or was it specifically Lane Kiffin?
He said Lane Kiffin.
He did, but I can see where, again, Lane Kiffin comes back around and says, oh, well, no, that was DJ, my whatever assistant guy that called. That wasn't me, technically. So, I mean, whatever. It's a weird thing to lie about whoever's lying about it. That's what I'll say.
All right, let's get to some more. I mentioned Jack Pyburn, Matt Baker, who writes for The Athletic. He covers the state of Florida like a glove. Jack Pyburn, former Florida and LSU linebacker, Bucks outside linebacker. I'm kind of caught in the middle of a whirlwind, and I'm just trying to play football on whether or not he is trying to make the Buccaneers, which I believe he is, or should he or could he go back to play for his college team if he doesn't at LSU? LSU.
Why are you repeating that?
Just
okay, I thought there was a reason for that.
I mean, yeah, you hear that rinse and repeat, copy and paste. I just
hit the reset button. Yeah. He's got the option to go to LSU. He's got the injunction, so we'll see if he makes the team or not. But right now, it looks like it's kind of up in the air as to whether or not that's going to be the case. So, yeah, good for him to have options, right? Hey, if I don't make the Buccaneers, then I'll just go back to college and play for LSU for 6 figures at minimum. And what a world to live in. Yeah, unique situation for him. He also obviously is well known from his time at Florida before going to LSU. And so he's a guy who's been around college ball. And that's another thing is just seeing this 5th year applied. I cannot wait for that to go into effect, to know there is going to be real limitations. And I think there is going to be. I think that eventually everybody's going to have to go like, no, we got to do, and this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because I think seeing how these couple dozen players, because again, it's not like this flood of here's 200 guys that are suddenly available and they're all pro.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Amanda Kristovich put out a note earlier today where it's like 16 players covered in the Louisiana ruling.
Yeah, it's just that like 5 of them might end up at LSU.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be the poster children for kind of aiding this and maybe benefiting the most from it. And so far you're looking at 2 all-SEC guys from Ole Miss that are apparently going to be adding. So, we'll see what the courts do about this, if anything. We'll see what Greg Sankey does. I know one thing. I saw people beating down Brett Yormark's door when he didn't have a response to Texas Tech taking Brendan Sorsby in like the first 20 minutes. Paul Feinbaum was...
Oh, Feinbaum's I've seen him.
Well,
He's,
good,
yeah,
good.
no.
Keep that same energy, and that's all my message was going to be is, I hope everybody keeps that same type of energy is just as on this as they are on other topics, but I think it sucks for the game to be in this place. I also don't find it surprising at all. I'm glad there's going to be better stuff to talk about throughout the week than just the legal things, but this was a very big story over the weekend, and it is notable that, yes, it's a couple dozen guys. It's not 240 players, and so everybody's scrambling. Yeah. We're talking about select few players, and just so happens some of them are all SEC, and some of them have ties to Lane Kiffin, and he's taking full advantage of that.
Darren Heitner, who is represent many athletes over the years on the Daquan transfer, not being SEC to SEC. One, he's from the Browns back to the SEC, but in the ruling, the injunction in Louisiana, because I've had a lot of people ask me about this, all persons acting in concert or participation with the NCAA are enjoined from prohibiting the plaintiffs from competing at NCAA Division I athletics. So in other words, even though it would technically be SEC to SEC, it's not based on how the injunction is written. Here's one from Trey Wallace. Remember, folks, he and I traded a couple of texts an hour ago. These schools are not being forced to take players returning to college from the NFL. The coaches are making a decision to buck the system. And the athletic directors and presidents could simply tell the coaches, nope, we're good. But here we are. Did you happen to read just a note about what Marcus Freeman said about Notre Dame and players who are available who are in the NFL? He said, no, our system, the way we go through admissions, we can't do that now. We're done. We've closed that door. You can't just go walk it in off the street and get into Notre Dame. And there's other schools like that too. But he basically said Notre Dame's not going to do anything.
Well, didn't Sark say something about that like a year ago? He was talking about some of these transfer rules, and he was talking about how Texas has a higher standard of admission. Am I just misremembering that? I feel like that was a thing, not exactly about this, but in general, something that Sark
Well, he's made comments about it when it comes to those who have transferred to Texas, that they have to be like vetted in a way academically because of what the standard might be.
Yeah, so it's kind of sort of close to what Marcus Freeman's saying. And hey, remember that thing that Sark complained about? Oh, I should probably be more specific after the last several months, because even if he's got a point, he's complained about a lot of things here in the last few months. But I'm glad to hear him not holding back. Yeah, I'd imagine Notre Dame, it's a little bit different with their academics. And Lane Kiffin was actually asked about that, and he basically brushed it off of like, oh, well, that's determined for them. That's not them making the decision, is the clip I feel like I saw. So it's like, again, passing the buck of like, oh, no, that's just because they can't do it or else they would. It's like, no, I don't think Marcus Freeman actually would do it. I'll stand to be proven wrong. I believe Dan Lanning wouldn't do it. Now, have they had the opportunity? Is there somebody that just makes a world of sense that's standing right in front of them, begging to be a Duck or a member of the Irish that could clear the academic part of it in South Bend? And would they still say no? I don't know about that, but I tend to just believe them at their word. And I think that's a great point by Trey, is like, that's the thing about Lane is I don't dislike him. I think he's a great character for college football. I think he definitely makes things more interesting. I just think he's so unbelievably full of it. And so when I see him, in this example of like, oh, well, everybody's recruiting. It's like, no, everybody's not recruiting these guys. And no, everybody's not welcoming them back with open arms. And no, there's actually people going like, no, we don't want to do this because we don't think it's good for the game. And you're sitting there saying, well, if we don't do it, then it's like, no, not necessarily. So I just don't think there's anything he would not do to improve his team. And that's part of why I'm sure LSU fans are going to love him more than they already do, is because at all costs, and whatever it takes, we're going to win, baby, even if it pisses some people off. And certainly that wouldn't be a first for him or for that program. So I think it's a match made in heaven, and it's going to be fireworks, and it's going to be equal amounts of potential combustibility. But, man, it's going to be interesting to watch what goes down there, for better, for worse, and for whatever. But, yeah, nobody put a gun to Kiffin's head. Nobody said, well, if you don't take these guys, then they're going to be playing against you. He did this all on his own. Own it, and just let's just call it what it is.
Well, and we're going to get to Sark a little bit later on, because there was I don't know what flaming up in Austin about a parent of a player. There's concerns about what kind of fall camp that Arch Manning's had, and Sarkisian made a comment, and then today made a different comment. One other note about who's in control of these decisions, Chris Lowe. The amount of money the SEC could generate this week, if it showed the scheduled meetings with presidents and chancellors and ADs in Birmingham, would be a pay-per-view and staggering. Most fascinating part for me is how presidents will respond to this.
It doesn't sound like any big decision was going to be made the way it was put out there initially, of just there's going to be conversations and whatnot, but more conversations about self-policing. And, I mean, I'm all for it. I want to see Greg Sankey police Lane Kiffin. I want to see Greg Sankey police name a coach, name a program in that conference, because I know LSU could say, well, now if that would be different because it's different circumstances, but now we're under this wide umbrella, so we're all playing by the same rules. But if the SEC were to bring it in-house like they're talking about doing and self-police, what does that look like? I mean, are you really going to have something up your sleeve that if Alabama says, you know what, screw you, Sankey, we're going to go grab this former NFL player, we don't care what, like, is there going to be real repercussions? I mean, it sounds good in practice, and for it to be applied,
thank you, Ron.
for it to be applied, I think would be fascinating to watch, to see Greg Sankey go, you know what, LSU? No. And then they go, well, we're going to sue. Well, that's not what you agreed to. You can't sue. You actually have to abide by the rules, Auburn or South Carolina or whoever it may be. I want to see that. I don't know, and as I wish for that, what trickle-down effects it would have on the rest of college football if you had suddenly people self-policing themselves. But the idea of Sankey having to do that, or having the ability to do that, is very interesting, because it doesn't seem like he has any ability to do that right now. They're sure as hell calling his bluff online as far as him being able to do anything about this because of the wording of the injunction. And so they're like, well, you can't. It's not interconference. He's coming from the NFL.
Yep.
Sankey can't do shit.
It's been written into the injunction in Louisiana because they knew what might happen, that they're not a part of that SEC to SEC.
So whether it's LSU or it's Alabama or whoever, like, what would prevent that under the SEC self-governance model, right? Are they just going to go get a TRO? Yeah. And so, like, I want to see them do it just to see what it looks like and see what the reaction would be to actual punishment and having to actually be told, no, you cannot do that, because every school, for the most part, is going, we're not going to be told, no, we're going to the courtroom.
You know what? Even the schools that wouldn't be interested in adding anybody who right now is a part of an NFL training camp who could be covered, and again, a very small number, about going back to college football. The meeting they're having in Birmingham is conference-only rules and enforcement, transfers, eligibility, the cap, and more. That would be like to be a fly on the wall.
Great timing
for that particular meeting. Hey, real quick, and then we break. We come back with Ari Temkin, and then again, R.C. Slocum in about an hour, Phil Bennett at 5, and Chip Brown from Horns 247 will join us today a little bit after 4 o'clock.
They got a pretty big pickup today. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Jason Sukamel joined in Horns 247.
Oh, no, I saw. You're talking about, the guy that was a part of Orange Blood. Yeah, I saw that. Jason's been a part of that cover in Texas forever. And I saw Chip tweet that out. Honorary captains for Saturday, September 5th. Auburn and Baylor in that NIL game that Auburn's players can get and earn NIL in Atlanta. Cam Newton and RG3. That was announced earlier today for that game, which I've gotten a couple of emails from that game wanting us to talk to their the executive director. We had him on at Big 12 Media Days in Frisco.
I mean this in the most, the nicest, most loving way, but is there a bigger pairing of like badass Heisman winning, like awesome to watch quarterbacks / goofy commentator guys like than RG3 and Cam Newton?
Yeah.
I mean, just like they're both
very different personalities. They even were when they were players.
They're both kind of eccentric, and they love the media and they love the cameras on, and that was whether they were players or broadcasters. But yeah, like those two definitely. I mean, both Heisman Trophy winners, and both now have got successful podcasts and whatever else, TV deals and everything. But yeah, talk about just a couple badasses on the gridiron, and then a couple of just sometimes goofies off the gridiron. But hell of a lineup of captains. I mean, you can't get much better for either side than Cam Newton and RG3.
Excuse me. When we were in San Francisco, of course, even a couple of years prior to that, Super Bowls, when Cam Newton has his setup with that big, huge hat that he wears, that top hat. That's kind of fun to watch. He's always got a smile on his face, though.
Yeah.
When we come back, Ari Temkin, we appreciate your time. There's a lot going on. First week of college football, even though a light schedule, it is a schedule. And this is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, used to be as you get older. Usually starts to creep in Father Time, late 30s and in the 40s, and maybe you're fortunate. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and maybe that is you. Your sleep habits aren't the same. Your eating habits aren't the same. You're pretty good shape, and yet you've gained a little bit of a belly fat issue. And your sex drive is like not as anything close to what it used to be. And even if you have that, you aren't performing the way you want. That could be low T, low testosterone. Dr. Petty, contact him, pettycliniclowt.com. Contact him. He will set you up to get an appointment with a doctor to get your blood drawn. He gets the results, looks at the number that is next to your name. Whatever that number is, it means something to him and to you, and he can increase it with an option and a program for you to join at pettycliniclowt.com.
Broker is your Lennox Premier dealer. Right now, qualified buyers can make no payments and get no interest financing for 12 months on a new Lennox home comfort system. Conditions apply. Call Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating Specialists for details and a free estimate.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive a 2026 Ram 1500 Limited Crew Cab with your choice. 0% for 36 months or 25% off MSRP. See why it was named to Car and Driver's Best 10 Trucks and SUVs list. And it comes with America's Best Truck Powertrain Warranty. 10 years, 100,000 miles.
Come by, let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Craig.
Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, and this is pretty much for the next several weeks, barring a conflict or two, because he's a popular man, will be when Ari joins us to look back at the weekend, look ahead to the upcoming weekend, and this weekend there is that TCU and North Carolina game in Ireland. Ari, thank you very much. We're going to get to college football. Remember you can trade a player for a player to be named later. I think we're getting that's going to filter into college football, that we're going to trade you a player for a future NFL player to be named later.
Yeah, I mean, and the options that college players and pro players have now, and I guess through street that used to be a one way is now a multiple way street. It's a bizarre time, and yeah, can't wait for this thing to officially kick off on Saturday because I'm about ready to be done with courtrooms. But yeah, it appears that the Colorado ruling that allowed for all the 2022 class to be eligible has been stayed by a higher court ruling in that case, but that doesn't supersede the individual rulings in Ohio, Georgia, Tennessee, Louisiana, Kentucky, California, Texas. Just to name a few. So if you are one of the athletes that was given the okay from another state, then you're still good to go. But if you're one of those that was given the okay through the Colorado courts, then you are not good to go. And I'm sure there will be updates forthcoming on this.
Yeah, Ari, obviously Lane Kiffin's getting the majority of the spotlight because he's who he is. LSU's who they are, and they've obviously been taking advantage of this opening here to add what looks like it's going to be multiple players from training camps when all is said and done. Just had another guy reported in the last hour besides Daquan Wright. But I won't be surprised if a Big 12 team kicks the tires and maybe tries to add an O-lineman. I mean, it's not like there's 200 players available, but how do you kind of judge this in your head? Like on the one hand, do you spite Lane Kiffin or any other coach for this matter that does this? Or do you go, well, their job is to win the most games and do the best that they can? Like, I just find myself in this weird spot where I'm like, I can't be mad at Lane Kiffin for making his team the best it can be, but he also pisses me off because I wish he wouldn't do this, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes all the sense. I mean, yeah, I think there are probably a lot of people that have that sentiment. And, I think I'm included in that. It's one of those things where it's like, man, this just doesn't feel right. Like it just, of all of the things that we've discussed, and there's just been, quite the buffet of, different opportunities here that have just, I think we never expected to or anticipated happening within college sports. This is certainly one of them where it's just like, this just feels wrong. It's always felt like a one-way street. Like you're off to the league. You got to you made the decision. It's a risk. There's a risk reward with it. And you got to live with the results here. And you've got guys that kind of test the waters, realize that it's a lot harder than they expected. And suddenly now they understand that college is far more attractive. I think it's a standard, like, don't hate the player, hate the game thing with Lane. I also think like, if you can win this way, there's the talent part of it, but then there's like the roster team building chemistry part of it. And, if you can win despite that, I think, there's elements of really good coaches that are able to kind of mold teams and players together. I think we're seeing in real time how putting together a roster really quickly can be detrimental. I mean, the story with what's happened at TCU is sort of an indication of sometimes, you don't have the best locker room chemistry or harmony when you are shopping really quickly for certain guys in the portal. And who knows, the exact reasoning behind what happened with TCU. But I just think, it's a good example of how it doesn't always work out with a locker room chemistry point of view piece of it. So, it sucks, right? Like and when you think about the rosters that are, built now in the Big 12 that are like, the train has left the station and suddenly you've got guys that are trying to run and jump on board and coaches that are throwing guys, throwing guys overboard. It's this crazy dynamic. And, again, it's like at this point, can we just play football games, stop worrying about courts? And, and honestly, quite frankly, the NCAA needs to do the right thing here, because they did this 5-for-5 rule, which would include the 2022 class. It's the reason that the Colorado ruling eventually, initially went through. That, the 2021 class would have already, exercised full eligibility, but 2022 is the one that has a right to it, you could argue, based on the 5-for-5 ruling. So I think I just said a lot of different things there, and none of them made sense in terms of having an opinion on it. But I'm kind of with you, where it's like, well, this is part of it. That don't hate the player, hate the game. But yeah, it sucks. Like this is not what we ever think of with college sports. And, for the folks that are fans that think like, I just want to know who these players are and get a feel for the roster, like this throws a wrench in that too.
Do you think that the start of the season will end the discussion about injunctions, rulings, hearings, and more?
I'd like to think so, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen as it pertains to this specific incident, because, you've got the Colorado deal, which makes all the 2022 class eligible. And the reality is, football is a very dangerous game. There's going to be injuries. And so like the idea of having some sort of a waiver wire available to you based on, eligible 2022 players, I think is something that is, going to be attractive to teams and to players. Yeah, I think the reality here is there's a market for it. Like there's a reason there's so much intrigue in basketball from the international market. And that's because in basketball, guys used to immediately leave at any point that they could, leverage their abilities for money, right? Like anytime they could be pros, they would leave and go pursue that. Well, now college is a much more viable option from a pro standpoint than the international game and the G League, which were the two options beyond the NBA that were available to players. And so you now have you're in the market now. And college has never really been there because they really haven't had much to offer in terms of the financial, but now they are, and it's much more lucrative. And so if you've got guys that are deciding on whether or not they're going to play on a practice squad for an NFL roster, or just kind of stay ready and wait for somebody to call, I think you're going to have the option to have that. Now, who knows what happens in terms of, well, they're now eligible, but can they join a roster right away? Like there's so much more to sort out. But yeah, I think at some point when we get closer to the season, I'd hope that this would go away, but knowing that the 2022 stuff still hangs out there, I don't think it will.
So enough about the off the field. We are actually in a game week here, Ari, and
indeed we are.
Yeah, we got a big game in Ireland coming up this weekend with TCU and North Carolina. TCU cannot lose this game just based on all the stuff that's swirling around the Tar Heels in their offseason. But I don't know, man. How do we even begin talking about games? Like for 8 months, we've been talking about nothing but court cases and transfers and everything. Like I don't even know how to ask about an actual game. What's on your mind when it comes to the Frogs and Tar Heels this weekend?
Yeah, and there's no shortage of drama in this game. And, kind of surprisingly, I suppose, the North Carolina drama has nothing to do with Bill Belichick's girlfriend this time. It has everything to do with the general manager of UNC, which is Michael Lombardi, who is, on administrative leave indefinitely while some improprieties are investigated internally. And then the bigger deal is the drama with Steve Belichick, the defensive coordinator, who on August 6th was placed on medical leave, according to Bill Belichick. Bill didn't call the defense last year. His son, Steve, did. Now he's on medical leave. I'm not sure that he's going to be able to travel with the team to Ireland to call this game. So Belichick says it'll be a communal effort. It's not as if Bill Belichick has never called plays before, but he hasn't at the collegiate level. And who knows the last time he has, in his professional career in terms of actually being a defensive coordinator. So that's a really interesting dynamic. And then TCU has some drama too with what went down with Jacob Fields and, the fallout with Dozie Ezekama and things that are being reported and what's not being reported. And, how does this stuff kind of happen where, an aggravated assault, he allegedly, punched him out and then kicked him afterwards. It's just a horrendous story. And I'm sure there's a lot more that we haven't heard and might eventually hear about this situation. So yeah, both teams coming in with a ton of drama. I think you hit the nail on the head there in terms of like, this is a lose-lose for TCU from a standpoint of like, you've got to win the game, and then how you win the game will say, what the narrative is around you for the rest of this season, because this was a very one-sided game last year. North Carolina should be more improved. Belichick this year in this offseason did a 180 from last year. Instead of hitting the portal hard, they really spent a lot of money and got a lot of commitments from the high school level and got a ton of talent. They got a flip on the defensive line from Texas A&M. They got 10 4-stars they signed as part of a top 16 recruiting class. Conversely, they were 64th in the transfer portal. So again, they sort of built flip-flop from how they were last year. And this is going to be a much more talented team, especially on defense. But there's a lot of question marks because there are a lot of true freshmen coming in. I think this will be a low-scoring game. I don't see TCU running away like they did last year because we don't really know what to expect out of Jaden Craig and Gordon Samus and this new TCU offense. And TCU is their biggest strength is on the defensive side. I think they're going to have one of the best defenses in the Big 12. And I think North Carolina's biggest strength is on the defensive side too. So should be sort of a defensive battle and, chillier conditions than what we're getting in Texas right now.
What do you expect exactly from Jaden Craig? I know you kind of said you don't expect, but what are you kind of thinking as far as, because I'm fascinated to watch him. I mean, I haven't seen a ton other than just some YouTube clips here and there.
Yeah, and one of the things that was sort of unique or interesting as we did a deep dive was that he had a lot more attempts, I think, than you'd expect, given we think of him as being more of a running quarterback, and we think of him as being a guy that hasn't turned the ball over. And he was still attempting 20 to 30 to 35 passes per game over the course of the season last year at Harvard, which is close to where Josh Hoover was last year. And even Gordon Samus's offense as a UConn passed the ball a decent amount. Now, look, it's obvious that TCU is going to be committed to the ground game. Like, that is going to be a huge part of their offense. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, like, do they throw the ball 20 times a game? Do we see them throw it 25 times a game? I think what number they look at, and obviously it'll change per game, but like the number between 20 and 30 to me is the most interesting part of this whole season for them in terms of like, if they're throwing it 20 times a game and winning, that means they're running the ball as effectively as they want to be. And if they're throwing it 30 times a game, then they're probably not running the ball as effectively as they want to. So I think like that'll be a really interesting tell in terms of this season. But look, I think there's reason to be optimistic about Jaden Craig. I mean, this is a guy that was expected to be, at least a 5th round pick in this past NFL draft. So that says a lot about how he's evaluated. I mean, it goes without saying he's extremely smart, can learn the offense quickly, which is something that Sonny Dykes and Gordon Samus have talked about, throughout this offseason. So I'm expecting him to be a top half of the league quarterback, which says a lot because I think this is going to be a really good quarterback league.
All right. One thing, and then we got to go. And we appreciate your time as always. Lance Leipold in Kansas. We like him a lot, and it's the push with Jalen Daniels. It didn't work out. Where is he in your opinion? I think he's safe no matter what. He's not on any. There's no warmness in his hot seat, whatever. But where's the KU fan base with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% right in terms of like this year is not a hot seat type year. I mean, unless things go horribly south, but I don't see that happening. And look, I think I'm a KU fan. So if you're asking me where I am with Leipold, I mean, I think both things can be true where the expectations are much higher, so there's, I think, a love for Leipold of like, thank you so much for bringing us out of the darkest days. But now we have expectations, and those expectations have not been met. I mean, you get to a bowl game, you've got all this excitement, and you have back-to-back 5 and 7 seasons now. So in some ways, he's a product of his own success. But look, the next season, 2027, if they're 5 and 7 again or not a bowl team this year, I do think those expectations will be even ramped up even more. And on top of that, like, I think there's a level of Andy Kotelnicki being a head coach in waiting now as he comes back from Penn State. There's so much creativity and diversity in what he does. And, I think from a KU fan's perspective, like, there's a lot of love for Kotelnicki and excitement over what he could possibly bring to the table this year. But I think I've talked about with you guys before, the 1-score game in previous seasons stat for Lance Leipold is very telling. And, he's just been very risk averse when you watch some of the end of game situations, especially last year. The Missouri game stands out where he's just consistently playing not to lose. And my perspective is, you're playing on the road against your rival for the first time in 2 decades. Take some chances, take some shots. And it's not just the Missouri game. There's multiple games in there. And, the reality is you play not to lose, you still end up losing anyways. So why not take your chances, go, be more aggressive on fourth down. I'm hoping that Kotelnicki being back, he's the more aggressor. Maybe they will be a little bit more multiple on fourth down to be a little bit more aggressive, because that's the one thing with Leipold where it's like, I'd really like him to be a little bit more aggressive with his play calling, with his decision making, especially on third and fourth down situations.
Ari, great to see you, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Ari Temkin
Take care, guys.
In the mornings on Big 12 Radio, on Tune In with us on Mondays throughout most of every week during the college football season. And then coming up in just a moment, we'll hear from Chip Brown on UT from Horns 247. In fact, he's next. Thanks to Michael Angelo Flores running the mothership with Garrett Ross as well. And thanks to our great sponsors and to you, the audience, hit the like button if you haven't already. This is 365 Sports. We have a lot of great sponsors. One of them is Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza. Bob Mock is the owner. 5 locations in Waco, has been in the pizza business at different levels, different roles, different responsibilities, different jobs for, most of his adult life. When you do get in the pizza business, and it's like not a businessman that like buys a chain or buys a franchise or whatever, you start off with delivering the pizzas. And also that means folding those damn boxes that you have to fold because they go in those boxes. You can't do that like after like the time a pizza's ordered, man. You start folding. That's one of the most annoying but necessary parts of it. That's some things that Bob and I shared because I was a guy that drove and delivered pizzas when I was a senior in high school and a couple of years in college, making some good money during the summer. He went from that to being inside the store and making the pizzas, the pies. And then he went from that to running a store and now has the 5 locations as an entrepreneur here in the Waco area. But wherever you might be, it's the fastest growing brand of pizzas, in the pizza brand in America, Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Pitched in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Score big on your next ride during the Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr.
Score your biggest savings of the year right now on Buick. Get a 3-row 2026 Buick Enclave and save $8,500. Or non-GM owners can save $6,750 on all 2026 Buick Envisions in stock. Get here now or go online and save thousands on Buick at Richard Carr.
Find championship savings and win on your next deal at their Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Smoak.
Chip Brown has been covering UT forever, and Horns 247 joins us on 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak along with Craig Smoak, and we appreciate Chip joining us today. Chip, did I get a feeling that there was this simmering of discontent within the UT program? Maybe a parent tweeted something out. What's going on down there? Besides, we're going to get to Arch and the offense and the defense and that. What was going on this weekend?
Yeah, there was a parent of a freshman who tweeted out, some stuff that indicated they weren't happy with how things, were going, and we'll see. I think this is a player who's finding himself a little further down in the depth chart than he'd like, and that was kind of the situation with Ty Anthony Smith, quite honestly. He missed the, linebacker who had a good year last year as a sophomore. 5.5 tackles for loss, made plays, had 2 interceptions, dismissed from the team because he was, missing time with some personal issues when he came back. Didn't like where he was because they brought in a couple transfers. Justin Cryer from Florida State, Raheem Biles from Pitt. And those guys played together all spring, have a lot of experience. So, it's kind of the age we're in, the NIL and are they where their parents think they need to be and all that. So, Steve Sarkisian said, on to the next. We're a team, and if you want to be a part of the team, then buy in and your time will come. If not, we'll move on.
Chip Brown with us on 365 Sports. Arch Manning, obviously last year started poorly, ended a lot better, and it was a lot of hype, and not that he created it, but that he did because of who he is and all that. And in the end, I thought by the end of the year he was playing really, really well, maybe even before then. How has his fall camp been, and how difficult or how much does Sark push him to make sure there is no slow start this year?
Well, it's been interesting because according to Steve Sarkisian, their training camp has been really good. The scrimmages have not been really good for Arch. He got intercepted a couple times early in scrimmage number 1, finished well, and then kind of the same in scrimmage number 2. Struggled, had a turnover, and then finished well. So kind of microcosms of his season last year. Now, Steve Sarkisian says that, Arch has had an excellent camp, has looked good, has made his layups, because that was something that Steve Sarkisian brought up at SEC football media days, that Arch needs to make his layups. The short and intermediate was a bit of a struggle for him at times. Guys running wide open, 5, 10, 15 yards, and, Arch's mechanics breaking down, missing those passes. That got better as the season went on last year. But if he can pick up where he left off at the end of last year, he'll be light years ahead of the struggles that he experienced through the first half of last season. And so that's the $1 million right now, Smokey, is, can Arch Manning get tunnel vision and be totally locked in to the process and dialed into his teammates, because he is connecting with Cam Coleman and Ryan Wingo and Emmett Mosley, the top 3 receivers on the team in these practices and scrimmages. So there's a sense that this offense is going to be much more explosive. They brought in explosive, make you miss running backs, Raleigh Brown from Arizona State, Hollywood Smothers from NC State. And these guys are not just good running backs, productive running backs, 6 yards per carry running backs, but they're guys who can make you miss from point blank range. They have that kind of twitch. And Sarkisian did that because if the offensive line struggles again, he wants guys who can make something out of nothing. Because that was something that Quintravian Wisner and CJ Baxter struggled with last year. And those guys, it wasn't all on them. There were guys in the backfield right when they got the handoff through the first half of the season. The offensive line coach, Kyle Flood, struggled to find the combination of the best 5 on the offensive line until game 9. And that was a head scratcher. And now you've got guys like Nate Kibble, who's at Baylor, who was brought up in the Texas program, developed in the Texas program, but never really given a shot to show what he can do. So I'm very interested to see what Nate Kibble can do at Baylor this year. And Neto Umeozulu at North Texas, another guy who was 4 years in the Texas program, never really got a shot, ended up transferring out. And so that offensive line was a real head scratcher. Last year, they went and brought in some experience with Melvin Ciani from Wake Forest and Lawrence Seymour from Western Kentucky. This offensive line will have 3,000 more snaps of college experience than the one that started the season last year.
Chip, is that where the, I guess, wondering about Texas's deficiencies kind of stops and starts? I mean, there's no deficiency of playmakers or a big high-profile quarterback, or I think the defense with Muschamp, maybe there's some things over on that side. But the thing I just constantly hear is that O-line. That's the million-dollar question, is it not?
Yeah, that's the $1 million, because if Texas can run the football, that opens up everything. And now you've added a guy like Cam Coleman he's going to command the defensive attention, which should free up Ryan Wingo, who's electric. And he made most of his, yardage and on passes at the line of scrimmage, screens. 22 of his 54 receptions were on passes at or behind the line of scrimmage last year. And, he turned that into big time stuff. He was not great down the field. He had the worst contested catch rate on the team, 4 of 14. He had 7 drops, which led the team. If Ryan Wingo takes a step forward just in catching the football down the field, a little better in the contested catch area with Cam Coleman, with a healthy Emmett Mosley, who missed the first 4 games of last season, then this offense should take a big step forward. They averaged 30.5 points per game last year, the lowest of the Sarkisian era. With these weapons and Arch Manning in his 4th year in the program, they should be averaging a touchdown better than that. They should be in that 37, 38 point range this year. And it starts up front. They feel like they've got the guys. Trevor Gooseby, the bone bruise, that sets him back a little bit, but it turns out that, they're on the more optimistic side of his return, 2 to 3 weeks, which could put him back in for the Ohio State game. And they feel really good about Melvin Ciani over at right tackle. So it comes down to the interior of that line and if they can, open lanes in the running game.
I know there might be a legal difference, but what is the difference in what Lane Kiffin today did with the guy for the Browns compared to Cole Hudson coming back to play for Texas? I know it's different injunctions. Hudson's was Travis County, and of course the one with Wright was in Louisiana. But is it the same thing? And what are your thoughts? You've been covering this sport forever, Chip, to see all this happening.
Yeah, I mean, the Cole Hudson lawsuit makes some sense. I mean, he didn't get drafted. He went to a couple of rookie mini camps, in Dallas and Cleveland, and didn't get signed. he is a grad student still. He has one more semester to finish his master's in the Macomb School of Business. So he's a student. And you know, it makes some sense for him. The guys who've signed pro contracts, you know, even guys who've, you know, are in camp right now getting paid $1,000 a week or whatever. Smokey, you know, those camp contracts, not great. Some kids get a signing bonus, but we're in crazy territory here. And, you know, the fact that if they don't make an NFL roster, are they going to be damaged if they can't go back and try and get a 5th year of eligibility and earn NIL money? That's what these judges are saying. And you can see it, but it just is kind of loony out there. And of course, if one kid gets through, then everybody's got to explore it because one kid got through, and that's an edge. And in this day and age of college football, you got to find every edge you can. And so, you know, here we are. It's a little crazy to me, but, you know, the NCAA, the change in the eligibility rule just opened a door for lawyers to try to, you know, help those kids who came out in the, you know, enrolled in the class of 2022 to get the 5th year. And so here we are.
Chip, I want to see fireworks. I want to see the SEC actually do what they have threatened to do and try to police themselves, because I want to see Greg Sankey tell Lane Kiffin, no, you're not allowed to do that. And then Lane Kiffin not to be able to turn around and just sue Greg Sankey, but they have to go, okay. I want to see that in practice. It sounds good in theory, but in practice, I think it would be a little bit more chaotic potentially.
Yeah, and Sankey has said he's you know, he wants the eligibility rules enforced, and so, you know, it's not a street fight, but it is expressing, you know, what he wants, and the fact that he's got coaches, you know, exploring other avenues it's a tricky situation. But, you know, Sankey's been on the record, and we'll see if, you know, the problem is, and we know this, and Kiffin cracks me up because he came into SEC Media Days a year ago and said, no one's paying attention to this cap. No one's paying attention to it. Everybody's blowing through the cap. And he was right. And, you know, of course, we know Congress, everybody trying to get some antitrust legislation through so that they can actually enforce, you know, the cap. But I don't know if we're getting any closer to unified guardrails. I mean, it feels like this congressional move is slipping away, and then we'll have to see if any of these coaches just decide, hey, you know what, let's bond together and do the right thing, because it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case with what we just talked about. I mean, everyone's looking for an edge.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we always go back to, is as frustrating as things can be, like whether you agree with, like Lane Kiffin didn't have to go get Daquan, right? He positioned it, of course, because he's Lane Kiffin, like, oh, well, if I didn't do it, well, you know, and so he did that. But, yeah, everybody's got to do what's best for them, and you can't blame them. There's a lot of money riding on this. And speaking of which, as somebody that's as close to the scene as can be, not some of us just going like, who's on the hot seat this year, this, that, and the other. I know Steve Sarkisian's not on the hot seat, but what kind of real pressure is he feeling? Do you feel like at this point in his career at Texas, and with what they have, the confidence they have rolling into this season?
Yeah, I mean, this is an all-in, no excuses year. Steve Sarkisian knows it could be the last year for Arch Manning. Things like that, you know, you gotta go for it, and that's what Texas has done. You know, they're in the 40 million plus payroll for this roster, and it's an all-in, no excuses year. And Steve Sarkisian's looking at it like, you know, this is the best roster I've had, and he said, I'm borderline obsessed with winning a national championship, so this is the roster to go do it. Now the schedule is a whole nother matter, and you know, Texas's schedule versus Notre Dame's schedule and all that stuff. The key is just get in the playoff, and then be the hot team in the playoffs. So the margin for error is thin again for Texas. They went 9-3 last year, didn't get in, even though they played, they beat 3 top 10 teams. They lost to Florida, lost to Ohio State, and lost it at Georgia. So the committee, didn't look at how Texas was playing at the end of the year, didn't look at their strength of schedule, kind of looked at the losses, and that's why everyone wants to know, is Texas going to keep Notre Dame on the schedule in 28 and 29? And I think it's going to come down to this year, and if the committee is looking at things any differently than they were a year ago. Because if it's still just about losses and not strength of schedule or how a team's playing at the end of the year, we might see that Notre Dame series with Texas get canceled in 28 and 29.
Chip, final thing for me, what's it been like to see Will Muschamp back around Austin and doing his thing?
Yeah, Muschamp's a nut. I mean, he haven't covered him from 2008 to 2010, and he had a defense, in 08 and 09. 09 they played for the national championship. It was electric. I think he's done a really good job of looking at the talent and putting that talent in the right position to be successful in camp. Now we'll see how it all looks, once the games start, but he just makes everyone accountable. And last year there were issues with the communication among the coaches. They brought Dwayne Aquina back in the secondary, and there was some disagreement about what coverages they should be playing at different times. The headsets were a little crazy. And Steve Sarkisian said when he brought in Will Muschamp, he's going to be the head coach of the defense. I'm not going to have to babysit on the headsets. And that's what Will Muschamp brings. He brings clarity, strength. Everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. Everyone's going to be held accountable, the coaches, the players. And I think he's happy with his talent. And so I expect this defense to be on point. It's not like Pete Kwiatkowski was doing a bad job. I mean, his defense has averaged giving up 18 points per game the last 3 years. You'll take that and, top 20 in run defense. But I think it will be along those lines, if not a little better.
Well, Chip, we appreciate your time. I got a question about the schedule. You mentioned about the Notre Dame game. UT fans, and I know that the SEC has more name brands, logos, and all that, and a bunch of teams ranked, but UT fans have always all but demanded playing Notre Dame or Ohio State like they do this year, or playing a banger, as I call it, in a non-conference game. And yes, maybe that Ohio State game cost them the national championship opportunity, but I think it's Florida that cost them that game, or Kentucky, and that game was tight. Or do they really? Will they back off wanting? They don't want to play you. With all due respect, University A, B, and C from some of the schools that are not at least bangers. Do they not?
Well, the dirty little secret, Smokey, about those non-conference games and why Texas was so aggressive was, when Texas was in the Big 12, there was concern about if the home schedule was sexy enough to be able to sell season tickets, increase season ticket prices. Now that they're in the SEC playing a 9-game conference schedule, I think the fans would be understanding if they thought, okay, if we cancel this series with Notre Dame, we're not helping Notre Dame because Notre Dame's really good, and Marcus Freeman's doing a good job, and they need opponents, and but more than that, if the fans feel like getting rid of the Notre Dame series would help Texas get into the playoff and have a better chance to compete for a national title, then I think they'll sign off on it. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it will be, because that's one thing. Both Texas and OU did that. They still do. OU's playing Michigan, or they play Tennessee, or they play somebody. And even then, that was a non-conference game for the longest time, but we knew it was never going to end. Chip, good to see you. Will be interesting. Ohio State at home. Last time they played them at home was the game after they won the national title, because the year in Columbus the year before was the huge win that launched them into the championship game to beat USC. So a lot of history between these two. Now, although they haven't played a lot, they have played recently more often than not. Have a great week, and we'll have you again, Chip. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it, Smoke.
Yeah, that's Chip Brown, Horns 247, with thoughts about UT. And also, there was this tweet from a father of a player that like, oh my, and now you really all think about this, parents doing that. You're not doing your son any favors. And then, of course, there were some like, what are you doing that for? And I just happened to see it. I didn't even know much about his son, like a freshman or whatever. That tweet's gone. Like I saw a UT writer put it up. There it is. So today when I'm going through the research, there it is. That tweet is gone from the, I don't know if it's the father or the one who put the tweet up, but yeah. And of course, Arch a lightning rod, no matter how well he's playing or not. And they need him. They need to get him off to a nice start this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's Googleable. It's Hayward Howard Sr., father of freshman cornerback Hayward Howard Jr., went on social media in August 26 to criticize the Longhorns, said a lot of bullshit going on behind the scenes, said he doesn't play politic games and that his son's paying the price for that, and his son's a four-star freshman from New Orleans, had a bunch of other offers, and he threatened to, quote-unquote, expose, I guess, what was going on. Like his exact, I mean, it's everywhere. It's so a lot of BS going on at Texas. As a parent, I'm very disappointed. I did not play the politic games. My son played football, and he does it very well. It's a lot of S going on. Y'all don't know. I'm about to expose this. So, yeah. So,
well,
sounds
I know,
like
that's still up. What I was saying is that the writer who had put it up, a UT writer who had put it up.
I see what you're saying now.
And all of a sudden, when I went to go look at it again the day, because I had put it up in this little file we have, it was gone. It was like, okay, we need to take this one down.
That's my fault. I thought you were talking about the parent taking it down. It sounded like they probably just got a little bit of a hot head, and I guess they still have it since they maybe still have that up. I have not been interested enough to go and really delve too deep into that whole deal, and that happens sometimes with various teams and parents and all of that. But, yeah, strange that a reporter would delete it almost like they were told not to. Is that what you're saying? Like,
well, I don't know what it was, but I couldn't contact the reporter.
That happens too with certain places.
Sometimes they're like, "Hey, would you take that down?" And it's there. You can't, man. The internet is forever, and you sometimes wonder whatever it was, or he felt. The bottom line, the parent was angry, probably playing time, not a good look, not going to help his son by saying what he said. The question was there something else simmering within the locker room, which, of course, everybody makes a big deal out of that. But
I don't know. It sounds like maybe there's some combustible elements there. I mean, obviously with the Ty Anthony Smith situation and him getting booted off the team after a few days of speculation about what exactly happened and what the end result was going to be, because I feel like before I missed out on Friday, he was leaning towards being gone, or that was leaning that direction, but I don't know if it was official until like the next day or something. I don't know, but obviously it was trending that way. He's no longer with them. Got into it, and I guess got into it with the wrong guys to where they said, all right, it's enough of you. No matter how good you might be or how good you may be in the future, we're going to move on. So, yeah, I'm sure some of that was frustrations, as Chip outlined, and then bringing on some other guys that affected his playing time, and who knows what else potentially in the mix as well.
Do you have, and when it's break here, but do you have the graphic, the quote from Sarkisian on Ty Anthony Smith, who played a lot for them? He was a playmaker for them. When he was asked about it, the thoughts were that Smith was no longer with the program, and in fact, he was dismissed from the team. And Steve Sarkisian had a quote about that. I think that might have been Saturday or Sunday. And here it is. Yeah, he was dismissed. Conduct detrimental to the team, and that's just what it is. I didn't like it. It's an unfortunate situation, for him individually. Again, I hate that. For us as a team, I hate that. He's a quality player, but I have to think about the team first. So Ty Anthony Smith, I think from Jasper High School, is no longer with the team.
In other news, Lane Kiffin's run to LSU and said, if I didn't do it, somebody else was going to do it. So, I'm just kidding.
No, that's right.
I just
all right.
felt like an easy layup there, but I'm sure there will be teams interested in picking up Ty Anthony Smith so long as they clear what happened in Austin first.
I'm trying to hit a lot of quarterback news. Some of it not surprising whatsoever, but at least it's out there. We'll get to that. A lot of it from the SEC. And your thoughts about it as well. That's next. This is R.C. Slocum around the corner, Hall of Fame coach Texas A&M, and then Phil Bennett will join us at 5, and this is 365 Sports. QC Kinetics. One of the things that I have discussed over since February of this year, late January, is how much their treatment for me has helped me, how much I feel better, how I can jog and I can run and I can do a lot of things I wasn't able to do, and even play golf and have the ability when I'm hitting like an iron or whatever to like hit down on the ball and hit it flush like I did, in fact, on Saturday and Sunday. One of the other things I want you to know is it's not temporary. It heals you. It takes care of you. Pain that I had for 4.5 to 5 years in my right hip, it's gone. If I have a busy day, I did that boot camp, Tuesday of last week, some exercises I haven't done much of, but I run 15 miles a week. Yeah, there's going to be some soreness, but it's not pain. It doesn't ache, and that's what I dealt with even without much of anything exercise, and it will heal you. It will take care of the soreness. It will take care of the aches. It will take care of your pain and allow you to live your life the way you want to, instead of every morning you wake up and you're like, oh my God, here we are again. And it just over and over and over again. They will use your natural biologics to heal you. Draw blood, spin it, put it back inside your system. No surgery, no recovery. It is your platelets, your plasma, your stem cells, your bone marrow that they will use to help you. Here are the numbers in multiple locations in both Dallas and also in Houston. In Dallas, 972-972-8610, and in Houston, 713-913 and 5285. If you're struggling with joint pain, nothing's working, and you're starting to talk about surgery before you do, it's a free consultation at any of the locations in Dallas and Houston, and believe me, it feels good to feel good. I want you to feel that way too. They'll take care of you at QCkinetics.com.
90 years ago, Berg Ford made a commitment, not just to sell Fords, but to serve Waco. What began in 1936 wasn't a transaction, it was a partnership built through hard work, quality, and integrity. Mile by mile, for over 4 generations, Berg has been driven by Waco. Thank you for the road we've traveled together and the miles that lay ahead.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
You were made for more. More than the ordinary. More than the expected. You were made for big moments. made for new friends, made for the kind of experience that stays with you. And yes, made to discover, made to create, made to turn hard work into real opportunity. At Tarleton State, college is more than what happens in a classroom. You were made for more. You were made to be a Texan.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoak Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with David Craig and Craig Smoak.
All right, let's checklist some quarterback starting QB1 type of news. And by the way, a lot of new people in the chat. Appreciate your time. College football fans from throughout the country, we appreciate that when you are watching us, along with the diehards we've had from day one 6 years ago every day. Keelan Russell, Duncanville High School, named the quarterback over Austin Mack, who's also a really good player that was also with DeBoer in Washington. Keelan Russell, Duncanville High School, the freshman, will start for the Crimson Tide this year.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's much of a surprise here. Him battling with Austin Mack, the indication I got from pretty much every piece of coverage that I read or saw over the last little while has leaned in the direction of Keelan Russell eventually being the guy. And so now he is officially, as we get into this part of the build-up where starting quarterbacks are being named, and that still feels like the old days of just being excited about that, being excited to hear who won the starting quarterback competition. And I think with Russell, there's obviously the Texas factor that makes him very exciting for a program like ours, and knowing a little bit about him in high school. But, yeah, I mean, all signs point to this guy being dynamic, being a hell of a playmaker, and being somebody who's got a lot of room to grow. And I'm very excited to see what he looks like this season. And then obviously you feel like you've still got a pretty good backup if things trend that direction for one way or another. So, yeah, I think Kalen DeBoer's got to be excited about what they've got at quarterback, and super excited about being able to show off some of this Keelan Russell flash that we've been hearing so much about from practices, and just his abilities. It's been a lot of rave reviews. So throw him in the SEC and let's sort it all out, or I guess Florida State early on in the season, and that'll be a hell of a challenge. And yeah, I cannot wait to see this young man go and do his thing.
We did Duncanville football games. I think it was 4 consecutive years when Midway, which is the school here in Waco that we broadcast, played them in 4 consecutive years against DeSoto, Duncanville, and those teams, and they were at a different level, and Midway used to play head up with them, and Duncanville had that run with the running back who went to LSU. I think he played, I saw him as a freshman or sophomore, playing in Duncanville.
Durham or something?
Yeah, Caden Durham. Also, another quarterback, QB1. Tennessee is naming and has confirmed 5-star true freshman Faison Brandon as their starting quarterback. Heupel has confirmed it. They open up the year against Furman September the 5th, and then Georgia Tech on the road the following week after that.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, there's going to be some young, fresh-faced quarterbacks in the SEC this year that we're going to be watching from the outset, both in Tuscaloosa and Knoxville as well, amongst some other places. But, yeah, first true freshman I thought I saw in over 20 years to be named the starter. And I forget where I came across that note earlier today, but that just stuck with me. I was like, damn, that's a lot. That's a long time. But I guess probably not as uncommon now, because you don't have to rely on true freshmen, at least the last 5 years. Now, you're going back 20 years with that stat, but I would think that nowadays you don't really have to rely on the young guys too much because you just go grab a veteran out of the transfer portal most of the time, unless you can recruit 5 stars and you can bring them in and develop them. And that's what obviously these last 2 schools are doing. So yeah, he won their quarterback competition and had some guys with some skins on the wall as well, and some abilities that made this a little bit interesting. But to see, I would be curious to know what General Ursus has to say, our resident Tennessee fan, because he would know far better than we would. But yeah, very cool. This is the first true freshman in forever. Seems like an exciting player. Heard a lot of good things about him. Just I think with both he and Keelan Russell, it's just there's going to be some mistakes because they're young, but you live with that, and you just know it's going to make them all the much better in the long run. And excited to hear what General Ursus has to say.
Yeah, General Ursus, he just put up the orange colors, the Tennessee Vols colors, but hadn't said much about it. And in fact, I'll monitor the chat now that we've brought it up on the show and see if he has anything to say at some particular time. But a true freshman, they have Furman. They play Georgia Tech. Their first SEC game, the 4th week of the season, will be against Texas. I think that game is in Knoxville against Texas, and so that'll be a nice matchup. That kid, look at his guns. He's got a good-looking body and a really obviously, well, I mean, look at the guns.
No, he's just
I'm not looking at the offensive line.
Look at his body.
He look, man. Look at he looks the part, and obviously the age there, but.
Well, he looks like a guy if you were putting the video game on and you're creating your ideal quarterback. Probably a lot of versions of said game will feature a guy that looks like that. Yeah.
General Ursus is not surprised Brandon is starting. He's been ahead of the battle since he stepped foot on campus.
Yeah, and I've read some of that going back to pretty early on, and did not monitor it on a daily basis because there's just so much going on. But did just feel like there was a consistency in hearing positive reviews about him. So. Like you said, probably for Tennessee fans, not much of a surprise there. Just exciting because he looks the part. He obviously has some skills that if you sit down and watch his tape or you read practice reviews or whatever, a dual threat. And, a lot to like about what he's got tools-wise. So excited to see with Heupel's coaching and the talent they can put around him up there in Knoxville, and obviously the fan support. That's going to be a lot of fun.
We have some other quarterback news. We'll get to that momentarily, but from Chris Lowe, prior to Faison Brandon, Brent Schaefer was the last to do it as a true freshman in Tennessee in 2004. He was the first true freshman right out of high school to start a quarterback in the SEC. Since freshman eligibility was reinstated that year, it wasn't until after 1973, it was 1973, and then freshmen became ineligible for a long, long time.
Yeah, and that's a good kind of kickoff for him. He got a couple games there in the first 4 that allow him to probably not have to play all 4 quarters unless you really want him to. With Furman there right out of the gates, you feel like that'll probably be a pretty good day. But yeah, Georgia Tech in week 2 in Atlanta, that'll be a nice little step up in competition. And then Kennesaw State at home, and then Texas. You mentioned the Longhorns going to Knoxville, and I was actually trying to see what that history looks like. But, they have not played Texas and Tennessee since 1968. That was the Cotton Bowl, the 1968 Cotton Bowl. And I don't think they've played 3 times total. Looks like all 3 of those meetings, and I've just never looked this up before because you said Tennessee, Texas. Like, God, that feels like we've never seen that. Well, we really haven't. It's happened 3 times. And it happened all 3 times in the Cotton Bowl, 1950, 1952, and 1968. So that'll be really interesting to watch.
They drilled them in 68. They were 9-1-1. They lost a game against Tech in Lubbock early in the year and had a tie against Houston back in also 1968, the last time that they met. So there's some of those series that you're seeing. Of course, Georgia and A&M have been in the same conference for 12 or 13 years, and they still haven't played. And our next guest, in fact, he joins us live. Former Texas A&M and Hall of Fame college football coach R.C. Slocum joins us. Craig Smoak and David Smoak on 365 Sports. How you doing, Coach? Great to see you.
I'm doing good. I'm here.
Yeah, you are. That's it. There you go.
My age, when you get up out of bed by yourself in the morning, you're walking around doing stuff, doing interviews. That's a good thing. I'm thankful.
Well, we got a great 1-2 punch. Phil Bennett is a good friend of yours, lives down there, is going to join us at 5 o'clock. And Can't wait to talk to him, but really excited about talking to you first.
He's a good man. I coached him many years ago. He coached for me, but I coached him when he was a young guy coming out of Marshall, Texas, and he was about as tough as they come. You know, he came in here and he had a couple of older brothers, and I think he'd been kicked around, beat around enough that he'd developed some toughness over the years. And he was as tough as any player I ever coached.
Yeah, his older brothers, all of them coach too. Fantastic family. You are having a statue put up right outside and near Kyle Field. You have been honored. You're in the College Football Hall of Fame. What does that mean to you?
It's hard to put it into words, you know. And of course, the statue, you don't do something like that by yourself. There are so many great players, great coaches, assistant coaches, managers, trainers, alumni. As a whole lot goes into coaches winning games, and the coaches have to coach and do a good job, but having players and being in a good place is extremely important when it goes to winning. And for me, it means so much. You can't see it right now, but I got a shoe shine box right over here in my little office. I was down in Orange, tough kid, family, tough working situation, good parents, great parents, hardworking but uneducated, and we had to scrap around. So I shined shoes, threw newspapers, worked in the supermarket, sacking grocers. But football, the game of football, and my coaches, I had a coach in the 7th grade came up, put his arm around me, and said, "How come you're not out for football?" I said, "I don't know. I've been too busy. I'm throwing papers." And he said, "Well, I think you could play. Why don't you come out?" And he encouraged me. His name was Frank Moats. He later became superintendent of schools at DeSoto up in the Dallas area. But he was a great coach, not only great football coach, he was a great person. And every coach I had, all the way through junior high, Bob Woodruff, my head coach in high school, Ted Jeffries, won a state championship at Wichita Falls back in the 40s, coached at Stephen F. Austin. Now I go to college, had great coaches there. Went to McNeese, and all the guys I had were good coaches, and they were good men. I never had anybody grabbing me, throwing me around, cursing me, or any of that kind of stuff. I had guys motivating me and leading and polishing on me, trying to make me a better person and a better football player.
What do you think of the people who had a hand in raising you along the way, whoever that was? What would they say, those that can't be here to see this, what would they think about the R.C. Slocum statue being unveiled, you think?
My mother would be saying, we had a sticker. R.C. Cola sponsored my radio show when I was coaching. They had a little jingle called "Me and My R.C." So they made these little stickers, and she had to have one. And I gave her one. She put it on my car. My dad had already passed away. I put it on her car, and she had it on there. And then after I was no longer at A&M coaching, my brother said, "Mother, he's not the coach up here anymore. I take that sticker off." She said, "No, you're not taking it off. He's still my RC." So he said, "Man, RC, you've gotten bigger over time." But anyway, she would love it, be very proud, and certainly she had whole lot to do with it. My family were wonderful people, good, strong Christian background, hardworking background, and I give them a whole lot of credit.
RC, Mike Elko's a football coach. He's a ball coach. It seems like he obviously knows talent, and most coaches really do, but he also seems to have brought a steadiness, a lack of any kind of drama to the program. How much has he meant for that program since he arrived?
I think that's a pretty good description. I think he's steady. I think he's smart to start with. And I just see him I sat in a meeting a week ago. I went out to a football camp that they had, a kickoff camp with some of the alumni, which I actually started 34 years ago, and they're still doing it. And it helps with NIL now is the background of it. But I sat in a room there with the people that came, 30-something donors probably, and he went for about an hour talking about the team, talking about philosophy, didn't miss a lick. It wasn't. He was just steady throughout the whole thing. and very insightful, very direct. And I see him. I've seen him in practice before. I just watched him. He's not an up and down guy. I don't think. I think he's pretty steady as it go, and I think that's good.
How do you feel about the program heading into this season, just based on what you know? I mean, obviously last year, very successful, a lot of things to like, a lot to build off from as well. But when you're successful, that just leads to bigger expectations. Kind of what's the talk around Aggie Land you feel like as far as this team goes?
I think, it's hard to know nowadays, but we brought in a bunch of new people. We lost some good guys. I think we had 10 guys drafted. And so somebody in the NFL thought we had 10 good players that they took off our team. And we brought in some more that people that do the evaluate and think are good players. So how that mixes is yet to be seen. I think they'll do a good job with it. And the other factor, I think, is if you look at last year's schedule and look at this year's schedule, we've got a tougher schedule than we had last year.
RC, what in the heck would you do if you had the magic wand with college football today, with all the different changes, the rulings? It seems like it's just chaos.
I don't think there's anybody in America could answer that question very well. But I would say that whatever we do, we have to get some organization or some umbrella or whatever where everybody is pretty much on the same page. You can't have schools in this state and schools in that state, or schools in this league and schools in that league, all having different understandings of what they can do and can't do. So I think somehow, I don't have the answer to how you do that. I think you'll see moving forward, there has to be some way where you can't have schools just saying, okay, we think it's this and we're going to do it this way. And somebody else says, okay, we got a different interpretation. We're going to do it this way. I think you have to get some stability and I don't think it's healthy for the young men, and I don't think it's healthy for the game for guys to go from here to here to here to here over their college careers. At some point, typically, when you transfer, you lose hours. And so you go here, you transfer, you lose some hours. You go here, you lose some. And pretty soon the kid's got 3 or 4 years. He's made some money. Not really. Most guys go to the NFL, don't make the NFL. A very small percentage of them make a living in the NFL. So now the kid's made a little money. He's probably spent a whole lot of that money. And now he's not even close to having a degree. And I think that's a bad thing. I'd love to hear more people refer to the situation as student athletes. I don't hear that term anymore. And that was something in my generation, that was at the forefront of everything we did, student athlete. And so I hope that the transfer thing is one thing you could do right up and say, okay, if you're at a school and something happens, your coach leaves or whatever, okay, we'll give you a transfer. But you can't go every year and say, oh, I'm going to go over here, whoever pay me more, I'll go there. That's not good.
Could you have – oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Could you have put together – let's say like the old wrecking crew the same way under these rules? Like, could you have just had guys coming in and out? I'll go grab this guy this year and this guy's, he was here. Or was there something to them all being together that was needed to create the ideal version of a wrecking crew of the defense of your program? Does that make sense? Like, could you have still accomplished it with all much movement, or did a lot of the consistency and then being together have a bigger impact?
No, I think we had kids come in that wanted to be a part of the wrecking crew. You're going to home recruiting as a coach, I want to play on the wrecking crew. Maybe a guy may be a running back, as a coach, I want to be on the wrecking crew. So we developed that reputation of the style of defense that we had. So we were attractive to guys. We had so many of those coverage corners like Aaron Glenn and Kevin Smith and guys that they could cover. And I talked to Jenkins one time here a few years ago, and he said, Hoss, y'all had us figured out, man. You had all those coverage corners. I was always afraid somebody else was going to do what y'all did, but nobody else had those cover guys like you had and those speed outside linebackers. So anyway, we recruited to that, and it worked. It was fun.
I know there's the story about the recruitment of Dat Win, and this you just mentioned a couple of All-American type players. Do you have a story of a player that, and I'm sure there's a bunch, but an underrated, no one really knew much about him, and yet you saw something in him, and he turned out to be a gem for you?
Well, Reggie Brown was a linebacker in Austin on a bad football team, and he was kind of an under the radar guy. Came in, was a first round draft choice, great player, All American player. Had another young man named Terrence Murphy from over at Tyler area.
Chapel Hill, yeah.
Chapel Hill. So he was a quarterback in high school. So we were recruiting somebody else, and my coach that recruits that area had actually turned Terrence down. I didn't even know who Terrence was. And a high school coach called me and said, I understand, hey, have y'all looked at that kid over at Chapel Hill? And I said, well, I'm sure we have. I haven't. But he's playing quarterback, but he's a good kid and he's a good athlete. And I said, well, I tell you what, Coach, I will go get the film myself and look at it. And I appreciate you calling. So when I looked at it, I saw a guy who was a very talented athlete running for his life. He couldn't throw. He wasn't a quarterback. But I said, man, and so anyway, I called him up and we were late. And I said, can I come over and talk to you? And I told the coaches, I'll handle this myself. So I went over to his house and went in. He said, well, Coach, how come, I said, well, I'm going to be honest with you. My coach who recruits this area turned you down, but he was looking at you as a quarterback. And we were settled on who we were recruiting. But I see, he said, well, who would you play me? I said, I don't know. But I'll be honest with you, I think you're a great athlete. We'll find a place. You're either receiver or defensive back. He came in and started the first game of his freshman year and had a great career, went on the Green Bay Packers, was, I think, a second-round pick. Got hurt up there, and but he came back here. He's been a very successful businessman here in town. And he was a great example of a guy. He wasn't a 5-star or 4-star or any of that. He was just an athlete.
He is, you're right, the business that he's a part of, just phenomenal investments and stuff like that. He is a great guy. And the injury when he was with the Packers that ended his career very early. Give me a Phil Bennett story that you're allowed to say on TV.
Well, one day we were out there and we had this big guy named Eugene Sanders that went on and played in the league. And Phil, they were both pretty much hot heads, but they're in there and I'm coaching them up and everything. I get in there, all of a sudden they get into it. And I felt the wind come by my head where one of them was swinging. I said, boy, whoa, wait, let me get out of here. If you guys want to beat each other up, you can, but don't be beating the coach up. So, and Phil, they went on for a while. I got him stopped, but he was a tough guy and he coached the same way. He started off as a graduate assistant coach for me and then full-time coach and then had a great coaching career.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely the best. What were your thoughts about when you were at A&M? You won multiple Southwest Conference champions. You were 28-0-1 during a stretch. You beat anybody that you had to beat. You were on a roll. And, of course, Craig brought up, again, the defense, the wrecking crew. How about the 98 Big 12 championship game when Kansas State was about to play for a national championship, and that's when you beat them in, I think, double overtime? What was that moment like for you?
That was really great. We'd lost our starting quarterback the week in the last game, had separated his collarbone, Randy McAllen. And so that game, and it's a credit, we had Brandon Stewart, who had been beaten out by Randy, and he was there, but he just stayed steady, kept working. In his finest hour, he won that game out there, went in and just played great in that game. We were down at halftime. We were actually 14-point underdogs, and I think they figured in losing the starting quarterback and all that. And we went in at halftime and said, hey, they've gotten all the breaks. Let's just go out there and keep plugging away, and we're going to win this game. And we went out there and just kept playing, got it into, and they announced during the game that the score of the Miami game or something, which meant Kansas State would go play for the national championship if they won. So they announced that I don't know why they did it, but it motivated us in a different way. But we came back, got it into overtime, and then went into double overtime. And that was a fun day out there. Sir Parker scored the winning touchdown, but Brandon played great. Steve Craigthorpe, my offensive coordinator, first play of the third quarter, he called a run, and I said, "Hey, Steve, I don't like it. We got to throw the ball, man. Look at that clock up there. We don't have much time, and we're going to have to utilize every minute of this game if we're going to have a chance to win." So we changed the play, had about an 18-yard completion to Derek Spiller down the seam, and went on down and scored. And so anyway, it was fun times.
Was it that Brandon Stewart, when he was at Tennessee, he happened to have a guy named Peyton Manning that was
That's
also
exactly
on the
right.
roster?
They went
Yeah.
to the same freshman class, Peyton Manning and Brandon.
Yep.
So Fulmer is a friend of mine, and he called me. He said, "RC, I know you was recruiting this kid. Would you want?" I said, "Yeah, I want him. Dang right. I watched him play in high school, tried to recruit him. So we got him back, and they ended up winning the last championship we won here. He was the quarterback, and a great person. He went on, had an outstanding business career, and I keep up with him. He here just recently, he sent me a picture. He took his son, who's a high school quarterback, down to the Manning Passing Academy down in Louisiana, just here, a month or two ago.
Oh, yeah.
He sent me a picture down there.
I don't know, and I appreciate your time. We do. And the last question for you, but I don't know of anyone. You hear about how loyal Aggies are to A&M and to each other. I don't know if anyone's ever been more loyal to A&M than you've been. You had the coaching career. They needed some help at the athletic department level after you were no longer the coach, and you stepped in to help them out. What does A&M mean to you?
It means everything. I had a guy in my hometown brought me up here for a game when I was in junior high, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And then over the years, I coached in high school. I coached at Kansas State. Emory Ballard, I sat on the front doorstep. His first day on the job, I heard he had gotten the job, and I waited till half the day. I waited till that afternoon before he let me in. The secretary, so he just got just a minute, and I waited and got in and got to talking, and he ended up hiring me. And it just a great place, and I'm so thankful. I had chances to go other places. Mark White called me the morning after I was let go at A&M. Mark White called me about 7:30 in the morning about going to Baylor, and then Drake McClain called me, and I had to think real fast. I had two sons who had already graduated here. I'd spent 30 years of my coaching career here, and so I made a decision. I'm going to stay here. Now. When at the statue unveiling next week, I'll have 34 of my immediate family here, and I think there's 15 or 16 A&M degrees in that group. My sons, stepson, all the grandkids, everybody's all A&M graduates. So I've got 2 or 3 out there right now. So it's been a great thing for me and for my family.
Well, you've been great for A&M. RC, it's great to have you on. Drayton McClain reached out to me. I did an interview with him, and I think he said that he had gotten a call from you. Did you see that interview that we did together?
I didn't see. I did call him after that, and Drayton's a great guy. I've been over when they had the eclipse here a few years ago. He invited me to come over. I went over for that deal, and I've seen him. And he's been down here. He spoke at the Bush School down here, and he did a great job speaking down at the Bush School. And, he's a wonderful, wonderful man.
Yep. A guy on the chat says, Smokey, RC used to hunt on my Carmona Ranch. I guess down, he's watching the show. Yeah, he has all that land in the famous Carmona Ranch. He wants me to come down there sometime this fall or winter and enjoy all the scenery.
You should do it. You know what? They got some big bass in those lakes, too.
Oh, that sounds
big
good
bass.
to me.
I went down there. I had some great times at Carmona.
Thank you, Coach. Man, appreciate everything you represent. Appreciate it, R.C. Slocum. Congratulations, the statue unveiling the first weekend in September for the great R.C. Slocum with us on 365 Sports. We will leave here, go to a break, come back, and Phil Bennett will be on the other side of that. This is 365 Sports and the Smoke Show. It is Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco, and Ted Teague, of course, the general manager and also the CEO. They have a large variety of pre-owned cars. That's where I bought the one I've been driving since the summer of 2020, a Ford Explorer. remember now, it's Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. I bought a Ford at their pre-owned inventory, and it's been fantastic. It's been absolutely a great vehicle to drive. And if you want a truck, well, when you hear the name Ram, that's a blue chip. If you want an SUV, Jeep, Grand Cherokee, Wagoneer, blue chip. So all of that is there with Ted Teague, the general manager and the CEO, and David Gray running the sales department for men and women. There for you in case you are interested and you want to even maybe nibble, test drive, and then you get serious. They have people there for you for that too. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. With Ted Teague and that company, they are very much entrenched in a lot of great charities around the Central Texas area. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Make this the summer event at Alan Samuels in Waco. Get summer ready in a new Jeep Wrangler Sport. Your choice, 0% for 36 months or just $33,848. Want more truck and more fun? Check out the 2026 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Your choice, 0% for 36 months or save $10,000. Take the top off and hit the road. Alan Samuels Jeep.
Come by, let's be friends.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Smoak.
All right, it's time to get Phil Bennett back on this show to bring some semblance of knowledge, insight, and also passion about college football. He's on the phone today. We will start to get him back in front of that unbelievable backyard in the pool and that deck that he has at some point. Yeah. Are you there, Phil?
I'm here,
Yeah.
and I'm doing grandfather duties today. So I told my daughter, I said, we can't go eat till we get this smoke show going.
You know, our daughter Jennifer had a baby girl back at the end of October, and it's the only one, the grandchild, and I got to tell you, that is life-changing. That will, you know, how many do you have? Because that's
I have
something.
7 now.
7 of
I had seven grandchildren. We've had, this year we've had 2. We had Sutter Bennett, my son Sam, and then Megan Combest, my daughter, had a little boy, and his name was Shepherd, but we're going to call him Shep. So we've had a run of boys. We're pretty excited. I'm sitting out here right now with my granddaughter Peyton, and she's getting a kick out of listening to this.
Yeah, well, did she tell her we said hi and everyone else is there, and thank you for giving us time when you're doing those duties. We just had R.C. Slocum on, Phil. I mean, my goodness, he recruited you. You coached with him. Is he as loyal an A&M Aggie in a place that has a bunch of loyal people, fans, students, whatever, is R.C. Slocum?
No, I mean, he's the best. I mean, he's I tell people this. It's such a I've never worked for a bad coach and anything, but I had a guy, he was my position coach, and actually I was with him every day, and here he was, a Hall of Fame coach. And, you know, A&M has had a history of abusing their coaches. And he withstood it all, you know, right to the very end. You know, he came there in 1972 and finished his last season, I think, was 2002. He's made a great impact on Texas A&M.
And he's going to get the statue here in a couple of weekends.
Yeah. It's 10'2".
Wow.
We were talking about. I said, "My God!" I said, "You're big, but." And you know what he's worried about? He called me the other day. I think I told you. He goes, "Do you realize we got to be out there Friday at 2:00?" He said, "I don't think anybody show up." I said, "Oh, I think they will. I think they'll show up."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think there'll be plenty of Aggies showing up to see R.C. Slocum's statue. Yeah, absolutely right. Coach, speaking of the Aggies, how do you feel about them this year? I mean, last year, really good season with Elko taking over. Obviously, some things by the end, you're like, okay, well, next year we'll see how Marcel Reed progresses and things like that. But are you feeling like they're going to take it another step forward? Do you feel like they're kind of where they are this year? Where does your head go with the Aggies and expectations in 2026?
First of all, Craig, I think their schedule is going to be quite a bit tougher than it was last year. And with that, I think the conference games, you know, last year they didn't play Georgia, they didn't play Alabama, they didn't play Ole Miss, didn't play Tennessee. So, you know, they had some games that they could win and should have won. Now, I do think Mike and his staff has done a good job replacing people. You mentioned Marcel. I think for them to be the team that they want to be, that he has got to be more consistent and finish games. You know, I go back to the Texas game. I thought he played a pretty good first half and just couldn't finish the game. You know, in the playoff game against Miami, we go all the way down the field and in the game, a very winnable game with a turnover. I think defensively they have a new defensive coordinator, which I think Mike really runs. But I have been told by some of the bigger boosters that he feels like they'll be better defensively than they've been. So one of the other big questions among the boosters is, you know, they hired a new offensive coordinator with Colin leaving. He has this first game will be the first play I believe he's ever called. He's not a quarterback coach. So there's some questions there. I think he's a great coach. We just don't know if he's a coordinator yet. So I think it's going into the season. It's going to be a season that they've got to answer a lot of questions.
Let me ask you, when was the first time that you coached 41 years and you were at all the various places, coordinator, et cetera, head coach. When was the first game you were an actual coordinator?
You know, I'm going to tell you the truth. I was the JV coach at A&M, and we went down there and played Southwest Texas State and Jim Wacker. And I got Coach Wilson. At the time it was Coach Tom Wilson. I got him to we had an open date, and I took a bunch of players that probably shouldn't have went. And I thought Jim Wacker was going to want to fight me after the game because he thought we were just bringing the walk-ons down.
Right.
But that's the first game I ever called. The first coordinator job I ever had, I was 28 years old. I worked at Iowa State for a guy named Jim Kreiner. And I got the job simply because Melvin Robinson, my defensive coordinator at A&M, had become such a 4-3 recognized guy that he told him, he said, hire him and you'll get better. And I was very fortunate. We had great players, and I think we were a top 10 defense the first year.
Coach, around this time, do you still get the kind of miss you feelings when it comes to the game of football, or did you just do it for so long at this point you are more than happy in retirement?
Craig, you know, I told your dad, we talked this last week. I went and spent 3 days at Abilene Christian with my son Sam, who's the defensive coordinator there. And then I came down today, and I spent the whole day at Texas Southern with Chris Dishman and my son-in-law, Matt Passwater, and all the people. So it's obvious. My wife told me, she said, you can't stay at home at this time. and it's just, it's in your blood. I just want to make, and I was kidding, I said, Dish, I just want to make sure you're on the right track. They play North Carolina Central on Saturday, and Abilene Christian opens up at Beaumont with Lamar. So hopefully they get off to a good start. I'm just like you guys. I've been addicted to it pretty much my whole life, and it's just a fun part of the year.
So how well does your son take your coaching overview and critique?
It's amazing. My wife was listening to us the other day on the phone, and she goes, I'm not sure he's listening to you. Sometimes, Craig can probably answer this question. Sometimes when Smoak says something, you look at him, I can't believe you said that.
Yep.
It's just a father-son moment. But, usually he's pretty good. And, Keith Patterson and I worked together at Arizona State. I've been a friend and somewhat of a mentor for Keith since early 90s. And so, as I told you, they're not going to be as experienced as they've been. And I was trying to tell Sam, you got to be simpler. You got to, when you're not experienced, I've learned from experience, you got to be simpler and give them a chance to play. And hopefully he'll listen to me. But I think he will at the end. But sometimes he's got to have his say.
Coach, when you think of just all the off-season stuff that has led to where we are now, what's of most interest to you? Is it a particular coaching change and some new scenery? Is it carryover from last year? And obviously you talk to a lot of these folks behind the scenes and you know a bit more about what's going on, but what's of interest to you as a fan and former coach?
There's about 3 scenarios, Craig, that I really have an interest in seeing how they play out. The first one is Gary Patterson at USC. I just have a very strong feeling that he can give them a direction on defense that they haven't had. And I know Lincoln Riley will score. And I think that a lot of people are saying, yeah, they said this about the last 2 coordinators. Gary's proven. And Gary, they didn't play great defense the last year or 2 at TCU, but there were circumstances around that. I think Gary can go in there and really make a difference as far as USC in their season. The second thing is the situation at University of Michigan. I think Kyle, it's coming out daily that Kyle left University of Utah with sort of a push, and there was, he wasn't ready to get out of it. I think that with his makeup and the years I've played against him, I think he can be a settler at University of Michigan, and I think they have a chance to come out and do some good things. And then the obvious is where's this thing with Belichick going to go? Second year they got a little bit better last year. I'm a little bit concerned. I saw where his son, who's a defensive coordinator, who actually did a pretty good job as the year went on, has not been involved. I'm not sure. Have y'all heard? Is he going to Dublin or not?
I don't think so. I do not think so.
Well, and I think his offensive coordinator, who we all know, is going to help him. So I think that's going to be an interesting situation to watch.
You don't just forget how to coach, but it's a different level, right? Did you ever get interested in the pro game or pro coaches you knew that came to college? What's the difference?
I had a chance in your first question. I had a chance 3 or 4 times to go to the NFL. One of them was a situation that didn't turn out good when I thought about leaving after my first year at A&M and taking the defensive coordinator job with a dear friend of mine, David McGinnis, who passed this year. And I got sort of talked myself out of it. And before I went to Baylor, I was looking at going to Philadelphia. And I just didn't see the fit for me personally. I like the relationship with the players at the college level. At that time, it might be different now. And I think Bill Belichick, he and Saban are close. And I think Saban sort of convinced him that it could be fun there. And I will tell you this, David, I think when you're paying a guy, they paid, it's got to be an insult to Mac Brown making $5,000, and they pay his successor $10 million.
Yeah.
$5 million, $10 million, excuse me, not 5,000, but that's a lot of money for a basketball school. And that sort of sets people point the arrow at you. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
I remember when Mac, we've had him on, it's time for me to get in touch with him again, is that the NIL, of course, is much, much larger because they wanted the change. They got the change, and so they had to also give Belichick more, and you just wonder if they just would have used some of that in the first place, would they not have needed a coaching change? But I
think Randy Clements was there, and they were so close. They were, they if you remember, they lost that quarterback. They had some bad luck at the very end with Mac, and I'm not sure, but I think Mike Lombardi is still suspended. Is that not correct?
Yes, they haven't heard much about it at all.
Yeah, they have some issues, and Lord knows we've all seen it, what it does to you. You can say it doesn't bother you, but when you're not in sequence of what you need to be doing, especially this is going to be interesting with a game in Dublin that historically is a game of mistakes. You go back to the time that I think Georgia Tech beat Florida State last year. Iowa State upset Kansas State. So it's a game. It's going to be interesting to see how that thing. And I've already seen it's a strong chance it's going to be raining, weather sloppy. So it's going to be interesting to see the improvement that they have made. And on the flip side, where's TCU with their new offensive coordinator? Sonny got rid of Kendall, who really, they didn't like the run game, didn't feel like he could run, and they've gone to a guy that was at Connecticut that was a bruiser. The only passing is going to be play passing. Todd Graham had told me he thinks this guy is really good, the new coordinator at TCU. So that game starts at 11 o'clock on Saturday. I'm really interested in watching that game also.
Phil, one more thing about one of the things that I saw, we read, I guess last Thursday or whatever, an NFL personnel guy that was making his rounds around camps and had come through Texas, TCU, Tech, SFA, A&M, Texas, and he was at Baylor. And he said that DJ Lagway might have been the best, at least at the moment, not the best prospect, but he liked what he saw. But it seems like Baylor's under the radar this year, which they should be because of how it's been up and down a roller coaster the last 4 or 5 years. What have you heard about them?
I have heard through the grapevine that they are a team that they're much better than people have predicted them to be. Now, and this came from people much like you that have watched them, gone through there, and know what I respect their opinion. They think that Clanderman has really done a good job defensively. He said they probably a little bit like us when we were there. No dominant guys, but a bunch of good guys. And they said the same thing. They thought offensively that Lagway has really given a presence to the running backs, to the receivers. And, he's a guy, too, that if your line is not what you think it is, he can still extend the play. If he could stay healthy and the defense could just be a big play, keep them in the game, I could see them very well being in that league, right? Being a 7-8 win team.
Coach, I guess it's week 0, not week 1, but we'll go ahead and throw out, do you have an official national championship prediction or official Big 12 championship prediction? Is it Texas Tech versus the field in the league? What can you offer us here?
Well, I'm going to start with the Big 12. I think after watching and and I've tried to keep up with it with various news outlets. Yeah. You have to look at BYU. They've got a lot of people back that were very big in their season last year. I think Texas Tech, it's going to be interesting. I think they'll still be good. I think they just didn't fall down. I think you look at Arizona. I think Arizona State. Well, people don't realize Arizona last year tore Arizona up. Arizona State, and Arizona, I think, is dangerous. They've got some things going. The coach there from San Jose sort of got some things in line. I think you look. I'm anxious to see at Oklahoma State how much improvement Eric can make up there, and you throw in Iowa State's going to have a new coach. There's a lot of unknowns, so I would say that thing is wide open, and who can jump in there, and who knows? Colorado, I think nobody knows what they have. Mm-mm. So this could be a game. Houston's being touted. I watched Houston last year, and I think they made improvement, but I'm not sure they're at the level of the upper echelon.
All right.
So I think it's a very winnable league by somebody who gets hot, and you're going to have to stay healthy and those things. As far as the national, I look once again. I look at the Southeast Conference. I like the way Kirby Smart coaches. I think Alabama will be better. I think and I don't know why, but I just feel like that. I think Kirby's quarterback, what they've done, I think defensively they'll be back to where they are. We have anointed, everybody has, Arch Manning in Texas. I like Will Muschamp, but I promise you, and I say this with all respect to everybody, but the defense wasn't the problem at Texas last year.
Nope.
They really didn't have to make a coaching change there for them. They played a very good Ohio State team early, but could not score. I mean, it was the first game. I don't think Arch could have played any worse. I mean, couldn't even throw a bubble pass. We talked about it last year. Wouldn't set his feet. Obviously, he got better. They had a big bowl win against a disoriented Michigan team. So they're talking Texas. I don't see that unless they get a lot better. Evidently, something's going on, too. They've got some issues with players' parents, and one of their linebackers quit. We all fight that. You're all trying to fight it. But a team, obviously, that really did a good job last year, the two teams I liked were Miami and Ohio State. Both of them showed they belong in the upper echelon. And I have been told by another friend that the quarterback at Miami, the kid from Duke, is much better than what the former Georgia quarterback was. Said he gives them a different dimension and said they're better on defense. So I think they have a chance to be very formidable. And, you always have to think, everybody thinks that Notre Dame got screwed last year. They're going to play a tough schedule. It's going to be interesting to see where they're at with it. So that's sort of the people that I look at, Craig.
I know you got to go. Your granddaughter's going to start not being happy. Colin Klein left A&M to become the head coach at his alma mater. He did a really good job, obviously, at A&M. You've mentioned kind of the loss because of the new coordinator coming in, but what about what you think he might be able to do at his alma mater, K-State?
I did not mention them in the Big 12, and that was out of an era. I think that Colin is an exceptional coach, and I think that with his quarterback, they immediately and the people I've talked to him, I'm very impressed with what they're doing. Their coaching staff, if they can be sound defensively, last year Klanderman got in a bind. He lost a lot of kids, and they couldn't stop the run. And if they can stop the run and the offense, and I know that he knows the Bill Snyder path is to keep the ball, score, and sometimes the best defense is keeping their offense on the sideline. Colin knows that, and I think he can help Avery because they were the same type players. Now, I've been told that the receivers at K-State, the 2 receivers they brought in are better than what they had thought they were. So they're a team that could get in the mix. But I know this, in long term, I think Colin they're going to be glad they hired him.
Yeah, their recruiting seems to be on an uptick. R.C. Slocum brought up you in a fight with, was it Eugene Rogers at practice one?
Eugene Sanders. Mean Gene. We fought every day.
Boy, that's a shocker.
Hey, RC's lucky that he didn't get hurt in it.
Yeah.
Because nobody was. I mean, the only thing about Eugene, I was about 6'2", 235. He was 6'4", 260. And and I'm going to tell you a quick story. We fought because we played, and they finally moved him inside, and it helped our team immensely. But RC told me one day, he said, if you get another fight in practice day, he goes, I'm gonna send both your ass in. You're not going to practice. I was from East Texas. I was going to prove to him every day, hey, I will fight you every day.
Yeah, he brought that up. He brought that up.
But this is a story. Eugene ends up, they move him to offensive line. He plays at Tampa Bay. He was from New Orleans, good player. I'm the defensive coordinator at LSU, and one day a manager come up and said, there's a guy down there, big black guy, said that he played with you at A&M. I thought to myself, I looked down and who's that? And I thought to myself at the time, I was like maybe 35. I think, I'm going to have to fight Eugene Sanders again. He comes through the gate, and he's a pastor. And he goes, hey, I can't tell you how many times I thought about you. And now it was great to see him. It's just a blessing how we all grow out of that.
Hey, go search for an NFL player that you can get to transfer from the pros to college football.
What are we doing?
Well,
what are we doing,
yeah,
Smoke?
I know.
I mean that things, and I'm going to tell you, I don't have anything against Kiffin, but some of the things that he's got so many, he's got an unbelievable payroll. LSU is an unbelievable place. Why do you need that to be a distraction to your team? I mean, people are going to look at that. When is enough enough? I'm just totally dejected about that.
Yeah, we'll discuss.
Do you know if
week.
he got picked up on? Did he get picked up on waivers or not?
No, he didn't get picked up on waivers. He's already committed to play at LSU, and it's just, I mean,
they've added
Kiffin,
another guy.
Yeah, they've added another guy that was. Where was he, Craig?
Where was the first one?
He was with Ole Miss.
Well, no, there's multiple Ole Miss guys that are coming to play for him at LSU.
Daquan Wright.
Yeah.
No,
there was another one today, Phil, that just is getting was in a training camp that's also from Ole Miss that LSU's
the Pyburn. Was it the safety or linebacker Jack Pyburn? Yeah.
No, it's a
so
different
that's the kid at Tampa Bay. He's at Tampa Bay.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what we've got to. Everybody knows this. When you don't have structure, you have chaos, and we have got to have to get. Obviously, the NCAA cannot manage this. We've got to get a hierarchy. I don't know if it's the 68 team thing and with the bowl people being in charge, but we have got to change the way we're looking at this.
100%. Yeah,
it's a mess.
100% agree.
But it's still opening week, and we're all going to be excited.
That's exactly right. We opened up with that after we mentioned a little bit about Daquan Wright. Thank you, Coach. Be careful on the way back home.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to a fun season with you guys.
We love the segment. We love Coach Bennett. Thank you very much, Phil Bennett, with us Mondays at 5 throughout the football season and doing some grandfather business tonight. What's wrong?
Yeah, no, I mean, we were all over the place on who the guys are. There's three. There's Daquan Wright, who got cut by the Browns and was at Ole Miss. There's Pyburn.
Yeah.
But the guy I'm talking about is Xavier Harris, who I was talking about earlier today, who just got cut, and he's now going from the Saints, where he was an undrafted free agent and got cut in fall camp to now apparently LSU. So that's two guys straight from the NFL. And then was Pyburn Pyburn wasn't the NFL, was he?
No, yeah,
Or
with
was he
Tampa
too?
Bay.
Okay, I mean it's effing confusing because we shouldn't even be talking about these guys to begin with.
No.
But here we are, the week of games starting, and we're talking about 3 NFL campers that LSU's adding. And I mean, we already saw what Lane's response was, and you can take that however you want to. LSU fans are going to take it as the greatest thing in the world, and everybody else is going to go, I hope my team doesn't do that, or I hope my team does do that. And I can tell you, for me personally, I don't care to see my favorite team, Oklahoma, add any NFL guys. I don't care if it's the missing piece to a national championship. I really mean this. I would rather just not see a national championship. I know that sounds probably crazy to people, but
yeah, most people probably wouldn't say that or believe that.
But that's fine. They can believe what they want to. That's just how I am, though. Like, so I don't think there's that guy out there that's the missing piece to that to begin with. For them, that they could just go pluck away, and all of a sudden, yeah, now they're national champions. But I don't know. I know in saying I wouldn't trade a national championship for that, knowing they haven't won one in 26 years. That maybe gun to my head, that would be different if that was guaranteed. But just adding guys who I don't think are going to put LSU over the top, but will make them better. I'd rather not see that and rather not have that for my favorite team. So to each their own. We know what route LSU and others are going to go as well. It's not just them, although that's where the focus is. We've got to make it clear. It's not just a Lane Kiffin deal, but he is one of the bigger faces in the sport, and they are seemingly taking the most advantage of this ruling, given that they're approaching a handful of guys that will be added to their roster potentially here in the next few days.
So Kiffin, yeah, you're right. Xavier Harris is committed to LSU. It didn't take long. It's like, there was some discussion going on. That's between agents or whatever.
I mean,
but there's also that Kiffin fired back at Marcus Freeman for he was asked about Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame's comments after former Notre Dame edge linebacker Junior Tia Lakamaka landed at LSU. Kiffin's response, if you can't get him in for admissions, then I would probably say the same thing.
This is what we played earlier in the day. That's what he was talking about. He was talking about how Notre Dame's admissions are too strict.
Yes.
So,
I brought that up.
No, it was from the clip we played at the beginning of the show, and he's saying that if I was at a school where the admissions would have been, I'd say the same thing. So he's basically saying that Marcus Freeman's only saying that because they can't let him in anyways, which I don't actually believe that. But that's Kiffin, though. He's gonna take his own angle on it, and he's gonna be like, well, you're just mad because you're jealous, and that's how a lot of the LSU fans are reacting to a lot of the pushback as well. So that's to be expected.
Tomorrow I'm going to play a clip, Craig, about Pete Golding when he was asked about was there an FBI sweep for bugs after Kiffin left, and he said, I think we probably have a player whose dad just happens to work for the FBI. There was no hiring process. So,
yeah, that's been circulating all day. The
well,
FBI
we can't get
thing.
to everything every day. I wanted to make sure I brought that up, though. Yeah. All right. Well, when we come back, no, that's all there is, Garrett. Right? Let's spin the wheel.
Streaming and smartphones, what was your go-to late-night TV show when you couldn't sleep? I don't know. It was usually late at night, so I was, I guess, one I used to watch growing up, and who knows how much damage it did to me, but Howard Stern, when he was on E! Late at nights when they had the simulcast, I think that's how I learned what a simulcast was, actually, was when they used to have his old show when he was still terrestrial radio in New York on E! Late nights, and so that was wild, especially for like a young teenager. So yeah, that was my go-to. That, I mean, at that point in the 90s, all the stuff that came on late at night was like Baywatch and Silk Stockings and the Howard Stern Show and like that kind of TV. Now it's like Big Bang Theory 24 hours a day, so didn't have as many options. Probably as a young guy was drawn to those a little bit more as well. But yeah, the Howard Stern show that was my introduction to him and that whole deal. And I enjoyed it immensely.
Late night, I was while Johnny Carson was still on until he retired. His show was a must watch. And then usually after that, I don't know what it was, whether Cheers or something like that. But the Johnny Carson, The Tonight Show, it never was one ever better after or as good. But that's me. I just kind of enjoyed Carson's humor and dry sense of humor at times. And having him be from Nebraska had nothing to do with it. I didn't even realize that most of the time I was watching him. All right, thanks to Andrew Valade with the watch. Anything you want to cap it off with?
No, man, I'm just glad the season's here. I wish this eligibility stuff would sort itself out, and maybe it will in the coming days. At least the saving grace is that we're not talking about like 100 players. We're talking about a few dozen, although I just saw a link to, I guess maybe it was On 3 or something, and they had 2 more guys that are apparently looking to come back that got cut here by NFL camp, so we'll see how long that list becomes. But Anthony Hankerson, who was at Oregon State, now has been cut, so I guess he's looking to come back to college, and there will be others as well. So, yeah, we'll see where all these chips fall, and be plenty to talk about. Looking forward to the fact, though, we're in a game week. Super excited to be in a game week and have games to talk about here in the next few days.
One final thought to wrap it up. So you have players who are at NFL training camps, some of them already looking to go back to where they came from because of the ruling or whatever. The NFL wants talent. They'll sign anybody. It doesn't matter usually whatever their background is. Some will put red flags up and not do that very often. But what about now when this former player who in fact leaves camp to go back to college is eligible again or in the draft again or eligible to be signed again? How many of them will say nope? Or is it all still down to the bottom line of just acquiring talent? That's something to watch moving forward. All right, Craig, thank you very much. Garrett Ross running the mothership to the end. Rez Flores, Michelangelo, we appreciate his time. We appreciate you and your time. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't. We're back again tomorrow at 3, The Smoak Show. For Craig, I'm David Smoak. Have a great night. This is 365 Sports. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get summer ready in a new Jeep Wrangler Sport. Your choice, 0% for 36 months or just $33,848. Want more truck and more fun? Check out the 2026 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Your choice, 0% for 36 months or save $10,000. Take the top off and hit the road. Allen Samuels Jeep.
Come by, let's be friends.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors.